Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Eat Sleep Game. My name is Luke, and this is our first ever kind of independent content creator Game of the Year show, where, as you can see, we have gathered a small army of people to chat about our Game of the Year. And we're essentially going to go through everybody's top 5, and eventually at the end, we will have, I'm going to say, a top 10 that we will run through, and that will be our collective definitive top 10. So there are a couple of people here who you may recognize already from my channel back when I did a podcast, or from the Game for All podcast. So I think we'll really quickly just run through and say hello. So obviously I'm Luke. For anybody who watches this channel, you know who I am. We have Jordan from the Game for All podcast.
Yes, hello, I'm good. As you said, I'm from Game for All. I'm also a game designer, if you didn't know that. And I look forward to this conversation.
Wonderful. We have Sean, also from the Game for All podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Very good, thank you, Jordan. I'm so used to saying Jordan.
It's
a new host. Luke, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Somebody has a favorite.
Is that a CLS shirt you got on?
It is, yeah.
Nice. We have Tucker Hazel. How you doing, buddy?
I'm Tucker Hazel from Backlog Banter on YouTube, and I know none of you. So it's going to be a great job for me to sort of get to know everyone and, I don't know, just tell you what I think about a couple games from this year.
Amazing.
Also got my tie.
Oh, yeah, no, can't forget
the tie.
Very fancy.
Stole it off of Matt. We'll get there. He's looking very dapper for this. We have Jeff Young, who has been an absolute hero with all the graphics and stuff like that for this show that you would have seen in the intro. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. I'm Jeff Young. I'm from Canada. I run Analog Stick Gaming. And I don't know 90% of the people here, but I'm here to get introduced to everybody and all their opinions.
Amazing. We have Johnny with us as well. How you doing, dude?
Hey, thanks for having me. For people who don't know who I am, I'm a member of the ACG podcast and Twitch streamer. So pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Thank you for coming. We have Andow. How are you, my dude?
Good. I also don't know most of the people here, but I'm here, doing my thing. I'm the creator and entirety of Abbreviated Reviews, and those are a bunch of videos that people may or may not have seen, and they're pretty fun. You might like them. Check them out.
They're great. I love them. You're also the man with the smoothest voice on the show, I think.
Maybe, but I doubt it.
Everybody's going to start talking deeper for the next while.
Try to match him.
Yeah.
Even at Ozuma, just try and autocorrect it easily and just mess it all up. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be all good. We have NBZ from This Nintendo Life. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, doing well, thanks. I'm Numan, aka NBZ, and been podcasting a while. I think 8 years now coming up on our show. So it's been a good time. Talk about Nintendo a lot, but also other stuff. So excited to chat about games here.
Wonderful. We also have Keith. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Keith Mitchell, also known as Shadow Haxer. I am the editor-in-chief of the Outer Haven Productions, and I also host a gaming podcast called Spectator Mode Podcast. Pretty sure I know a couple of you people in here as well, and you may not know who I am, but that's all good.
That's half of the reason we're doing
Hey,
this.
we do now, man. We do now.
There you go. It's a big group of introductions.
It is. We're almost done, though. So we have Cam. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you all?
Wonderful. It's good to have you here. We have Matt P, who you will recognize from my podcast and the Game for All show. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm very good indeed. Thank you for having me on. I dressed appropriately for an award show, as you can tell.
Standing? Are you standing?
Only one, apparently. I am indeed. Standing desk, mate. Yeah.
He's got a fancy desk.
Okay.
It's mainly because...
Should I go change my shirt now?
I'm on a couch.
That your ring light looks like the Elden Ring.
It does a bit, doesn't it? It is quite ominous in the background there. Just keep an eye. It might get bigger and just eventually swallow the whole screen.
Could happen.
Could happen indeed. We have Josh as well. How you doing, buddy?
I am well, my friend. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to talk games and the few that I was able to go out the cash to actually play this year.
Oh, I feel that. Game Pass saved me big time this year, I think. Game Pass has been a big one this year.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, we have Philip. How you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Nice to be here. If you don't know, I'm from Simply Sassy Vids, but really I'm just a guy around the internet. And
pretty cool guy around the internet, if I do say so myself.
Yes.
Josh,
Shucks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now you have met everybody here. I do have two more people that have given me their list that can't be here today. Those being Asa Green River from Borderline Entertainment and Paul Lombardo for the from the Ham Radio podcast as well. So I will be filling in their roles. I say filling in their roles. I'm just going to say their top fives when it comes down to it. So let's jump straight in, shall we? I think we'll go Jordan first. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run through number by number. Excuse me. And everyone's going to say their top five, for instance. So Jordan, what is your number five?
My number five might surprise a few of you, it being so low on my list, but I'll explain why later on. It Takes Two, number five on my list.
Cool.
Look
It
that
takes
one off.
five.
It takes five. Very good, very good. Sean, what is your number five?
So I actually swapped this in last minute, and it is also It Takes Two. Yeah.
Oh,
Indeed.
Awesome.
It's a Game Awards show all over again. Here we go.
We could just confirm it now. Game for All has been bought by Hazelight Studios.
Congratulations.
Jeff, what is your number five?
My number five, coincidentally, has a 5 in the title, and that is Forza Horizon 5.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Johnny, what is your number five?
Mine is Kena Bridge of Spirits.
Nice. Awesome game. MBZ, what is your number five?
I'm just joining a couple of boys here with It Takes Two, also my number 5.
So Hazelight spreading out and buying this this Nintendo Life as well.
Yeah, of course.
They're expanding, mate. They're buying the whole family.
Spending all the EA money.
All the Game Awards money as well. Matt, what is your number five, please, buddy?
I'm slightly worried now that nobody else is going to have this in the list because it came out so early in the year and people may have forgotten about it. Hitman 3 is my number 5.
Nice. Hitman literally just fell out of mine. I had it in a couple of days ago.
Forza just fell out of mine when Jeff mentioned it then. I was like, nearly.
Interesting. Endio, what is your top number 5, please, bud?
My number 5 is Death's Door.
Wonderful. And Josh, what is your number 5, please?
So I went with a game called Dendara. It actually came out recently on Apple Arcade. This was one of those ones where like I hadn't played a whole lot of new games this year, so Apple Arcade has been a huge get for me because I can kind of pick things a little bit here and there, especially as a mobile gamer myself. Kind of kept that living that backbone life. I can't recommend it enough. So Dendara, fun little Metroidvania style game with a couple twists to it, so I highly recommend it.
Nice. Philip, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Deathloop.
Nice. Done.
I had that on the list.
Do indeed.
But it fell off.
Yeah, it wasn't anywhere close for me, unfortunately. Keith, what is your number 5?
My game of the year for number 5 is Returnal.
Beautiful. Where did we are? Cam, what is your number 5, please?
My number 5 is Halo Infinite.
Nice.
It was almost my number 5. Can I just say it
Really?
didn't quite make it, but it was almost in there.
Interesting. And Tucker, what is your number 5, please?
You guys have been being bought out by Hazelight, but much like Bethesda, I have been bought out by Microsoft because Deathloop is my number 5.
Awesome. So on Ace's number 5 is the Artful Escape.
Nice.
It's a beautiful game. And on Paul's, it's Chicory, a colorful tale.
Gotta play that. Very cool.
I still haven't, but it's coming to Switch, or it's on Switch now.
2 days ago, I believe.
Yeah,
Something like that.
it just hit it. Yeah.
I need to check that one out. My number 5 is Returnal. It would be higher if I had got any further, but I've really struggled with it, and part of it's because of the way I play it, because I really want to finish like the whole level before moving on to the next one. It just doesn't work. I just keep dying. It's stupid. So I've changed that. But that's why it is number 5 for me. So It Takes Two is on there for number 5 picks. Do you want to talk about that one really quick? Let's have a chat about It Takes Two.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the reason it's number 5 is because I don't rate it quite as highly as the other games in my list, but it will stick with me more than, say, some of my honorable mentions. Like I mentioned, Halo didn't quite get there. Not because it's any lesser of a game necessarily, it just won't stick with me as long. I'll remember It Takes Two in 5 years' time. I don't know that I'll still be remembering Halo Infinite. You know, it's that's kind of why it makes number 5 for me.
Yeah, I mean, It Takes Two is a one-off. You know, it's not going to get a sequel. Probably. You know, we'll probably get something new from them. That marriage gets real complicated.
Oh boy.
Polyamory.
Quite possibly. Johnny, you are the only one that's picked Kana. So do you want to talk about Kana real quick?
Yeah, I think Kana was a big surprise this year for me. I believe it's the first game of the studio.
It is,
and it came out as this really kind of well put together, well crafted game with truly interesting bosses. Some of them actually, pretty tough. And what you would expect in a like cutesy game would be that the bosses would be gimmicks. And once you figure the gimmick of the boss, right, it's trivial. Instead, what you find is like actually mechanically challenging. You kind of have to figure out the move set. There's no real way around it. And I really respect it for that. Despite having like a simple move set, the player having a simple move set, you have to be smart about how you use those things and kind of, I guess, abuse them in a way to, in a way that if you don't, fights can actually be really, really challenging. I really enjoyed it. I mean, the visuals are great.
Oh yeah,
right.
Wonderful.
It's one of those like
they're a CG
over graphics
studio house.
They were, yeah.
And you can really tell. I mean, each of the little dudes, so they're like little blobs, right, that accompany you. Right? Each of them have like their own sort of cutscene or animation when you pick them up. I know it's a small thing, but it really adds to this sort of Pixar feel.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the attention to detail. I love that.
Yeah. And I did want to mention, because Andow said Death's Door, maybe we can hear from him, but that was like the close, it was between those two for me. So I loved Death's Door as well. So kudos to Andow for, bringing that up as well.
Death's Door will actually come up again a bit later. So we will talk about that a bit later.
Can I just chime in on the It Takes Two conversation? Because I have it, higher up on my list. I don't want to say where, but for me, that game was one of the few that was truly crafted with co-op in mind. What we often see with co-op games, right, is that it's kind of an afterthought. So you have the single player mode, which is what the game is kind of developed for. And then you have the option of playing with a companion. Many times you
Halo
don't even...
Infinite.
Right. And many times you don't even like share progress. Like you have to do, I'm looking at you, Far Cry, you have to redo the missions on the other side, right? So for me, that like straight away is kind of really cool. And I remember A Way Out, that, their prior game was also really cool in that way. But this one took it to another level for me, because I felt like a kid playing this, because you're tiny. So you see everything, in like, as if it's giant. And it took me back to a time as a kid when I watched Toy Story, right? And everything was giant for them.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I've felt that way with a game, for quite a while, actually. So that's why it's higher up.
The scene with the elephant got you, right, Johnny? It got you.
Man. Yeah. And, experiencing that with a friend, it's like, it's a really cool experience.
Yeah.
I had the... Sorry, go on, man.
No, I was going to say that weekend, basically, I think we started it on the Friday, me and my friend, and basically nonstop played it the entire weekend, and we were done by Sunday night. And it was like, all right, we're just going to play this section on Saturday, and then went and had lunch, came back after lunch. It was like, we just barreled through that thing. And I think for me, it's one of the most relentlessly creative games I've ever played. It's just like idea after idea after idea.
Yeah,
It's amazing that they made something that has so much variety to it. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember who said it. I think it might have even been you, MBZ, on your podcast, but the way it does its abilities, where it doesn't carry them through, it's just that's the theme for this level. You can nail something to a wall, what have you. Next one, move on. It's very Nintendo-like.
Yeah.
And it just, ironically, it nails so much of what it does. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's move on to our number 4 pick. So Jordan, what is your number 4?
So racing into 4th place for me is
Ooh.
Forza Horizon 5.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Sean, what is your number 4?
I went with the Artful Escape. Loved that game.
Jeff, what is your number 4?
I was going to do some type of Dr. Seuss rhyme, but I'll just go for it. Death's Door.
Beautiful. Johnny, what is that number 4 for you?
Ratchet and Clank for the PS5.
Yeah. Lovely. MBZ, what is your number 4?
Mine is The Forgotten City.
Ooh, very nice. Matt P, what is your number 4, please?
My number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Endio, what is your number 4, please, bud?
My number 4 is The Ascent.
Awesome, awesome. And Josh?
I went with Returnal.
Awesome. Boop. And Philip, what is your number 4, please, bud?
Yeah, it's It Takes Two, which I just finished last night, and it kind of
Recency bias. God damn it!
Right in under the wire.
To be fair, it was with my wife, so it was kind of a amazing experience.
Yeah, I played it with my brother, and we had to stop halfway through because we just couldn't stop giggling. It was so funny. Keith, what is your number 4, please, mate?
I'm going to say I'm pretty sure nobody has this game on their list, but Aliens Fireteam Elite.
Nice,
I don't think I've heard of that.
I haven't played that yet, but it's now on Game Pass, so I'm probably going to try it out.
You definitely should play it. If you have even a passing interest in the Alien or Aliens franchises, and you want a good game, and you have played Aliens, Colonial Marine, and you wanted to kill yourself after playing it, that's all I'm going to say. Play this game.
Okay.
I feel that. Tucker. Cam. Sorry. What is your number 4, please?
Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Awesome. Tucker, what is your number 4, please?
This is another one I don't think we'll be seeing from anyone else here, but I was given the chance to review Toem on PS5. It's a little indie game based around photography, kind of like a Pokemon Snap style thing, but you explore 2D environments in brilliantly detailed black and white hand-drawn aesthetic. It's got a phenomenal soundtrack, a cute little story, and everything about it just instantly clicked with me. And I beat that game in one sitting and got the platinum before the game came out. I was the 4th person on the planet to have the Toem platinum. I'm very proud of that.
Nice. That should be in your Twitter bio, mate.
Oh, that's a great point. I'll go out there right now.
Should be in your Twitter bio. Awesome. So Asa had Metroid Dread at 4, and Paul had Halo Infinite at 4, and I also went for the Artful Escape at number 4. So there's a couple in here again that don't repeat. So I would like to talk about Endio. Can you tell me about your experience with the Ascent?
Well, first of all, I mean, in general, the Ascent is pretty a generic twin stick shooter, but what made it so appealing to me is that it had just an incredible world design and had a lot of detail within that world. It kind of encompassed the whole like cyberpunk feel to me, more than Cyberpunk 2077 did, and I was really happy about that, to finally see something, embrace that. And it was just fun. It was just fun to play. I mean, there's a lot of like just carnage and explosions, and it looks fantastic the whole way through. So I was like, it's hard to, I mean, it's not hard to find a game that has some of those things, but I think it really just brought everything together in a really cohesive package.
Awesome. Did anybody else play the Ascent?
I did, yes.
Yeah,
and so did Jeff. And I was just going to throw to Jeff because I think it might have been on Jeff's list if it wasn't for one thing with the game. So Jeff, what happened?
Really?
So I went through the Ascent, and I went through the entire game single player, and it definitely would have been on my list. It probably would have been sitting at like number 2 or 3. I absolutely love that game. And then the first time I play co-op, it erases my cyber deck, and my character is now broken.
Oh,
they have not fixed it.
Wow.
Bummer, man.
Did you play it on Game Pass? Was that the issue?
No, I played it on Game Pass, but this was an issue that a lot of other people had.
Yes.
Even who bought it, and like the company actually contacted me and they said, "Hey, tell us your situation about what happened, the platform you're playing on, and they still have not fixed it. And they're ignoring almost every single tweet now that talks
crazy.
about it. Because like I love the game, but unless I'm willing to go through it again as the second player and have the first player hack everything, I'd have to start over if they release any new content, and I don't think I would.
Can you have like different builds, or is it just you play as you are sort of thing?
Not really.
Well, you can, but your cyber deck is the way that you hack things in the environment.
Right.
And if they made a cyber deck vendor that allowed you to go there and like swap it out or something, that'd be fine. But I can't hack anything. I can't open doors. I can't do anything that requires hacking.
Ah, dude, that.
But I loved it. I think the game is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's the first game that studio made as a whole. I mean, they're industry veterans, but that game is absolutely gorgeous. It plays super fun. It just sucks that my only time playing co-op broke it for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't play co-op at all.
Yeah,
I'm glad I didn't.
That's my style. That's absolutely my style.
Easy way to skip that is just not to play co-op.
Yeah, exactly. Cam, can you tell me a bit about Shin Megami and how it was for you?
Yeah, like I mean, I'm a big JRPG guy. It's my favorite genre of games. Shin Megami Tensei. I love Atlas games. Shin Megami Tensei 5. I played a bit of the 3 remaster this year, and just like kind of comparing the two, like it's very much they were able to modernize the series to make it, I think, more approachable, more like I would use the word approachable, but like it still has that difficulty, that like kind of that level of challenge that I like from Shin Megami Tensei. That I think that, I'm still like I didn't finish the game, I'm still playing it, but like, it's just one of those games that I know what games I like. I know I really like this game, and so this is where I placed it on my list.
Can I ask something? I'm so sorry, but Cam, I'm currently playing Persona 5 Royale.
Sure.
And I'm like in the end game there. I love that game, right? It's amazing. And I know it's kind of like a spin-off, isn't it, from the Shin Megami originally.
Yeah.
So the Persona games all together are kind of. So how would you compare, Persona 5 to Shin Megami 5?
Very different.
It's very different, but like the reason why that it's considered a spin-off is because like the personas in the game are like the demons in Shin Megami Tensei. So but like there's still a major difference. Like Shin Megami Tensei is not remotely as story heavy as Persona. It's a lot more about the gameplay. It's about the like the challenge. And it's kind of like Pokemon, where like the demons, you recruit them and they're the rest of your party. And then they level up. They all have their own like skill sets. You can you can fuse them later on, things like that. But then there are like these, and this might be something that like turn people off from the game. But like, there are like ruthlessly difficult bosses in Shin Megami Tensei that like you need, like sometimes you need like the right build of a specific demon to like overcome that. Like you can't just, it's not just pure like, oh, if I'm like this level, I over level myself, I'm gonna win. It doesn't work like that. You have to like use the skills and the abilities and the demons to your best ability. And like right now, like I can only have up to 6 demons at a time, but I think that will grow over time.
Yeah, it usually does.
It's a lot more traditional JRPG while still having like Atlas having its own flair to it. If you like Persona, I think you should definitely give Shin Megami Tensei or Shin Megami Tensei in general a shot. I think that 5 would be a better like first point of entry into the series. And then if you really like 5 and you like the challenge, go back to SMT3, the remaster that came out earlier this year, because that is considered one of the hardest JRPGs ever. Like it's
it definitely is.
It's ruthless.
It is hard.
Yeah. Like the first,
this is coming from somebody who likes Dark Souls. That game is hard.
The Dark Souls of JRPGs.
Yeah, it's ruthless.
Before Dark Souls, though.
Yeah, it's ruthlessly
the Dark
hard.
Souls of. There's a phrase people should use.
Oh no, that's not.
Yeah.
It's never been used once.
So, and I think it runs pretty well. Like I heard that there were like really bad like performance issues when people were reviewing it, but I think they kind of patched that up a bit. I haven't really had any really bad performance issues through my experience. But
I had one.
Okay. But it's worth playing. Definitely worth checking out.
Awesome.
I always love.
Yeah, and you see some of the enemies too.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Some of the same enemies. I was just gonna say I always love the reference to Pokemon because there's actually Shin Megami Tensei Demi Kids light and dark versions on the Game Boy Advance, which literally are basically Pokemon versions of the Shin Megami Tensei series.
Interesting.
It's pretty good from what I played of it. I'm only like I think in like the third area.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a huge Persona 5 fan as well. Like I've never finished. I didn't finish 5 or 5 Royal, but I adore the time I spent with them. So I'm really excited that you're playing through them at the minute, Johnny.
Yeah, I'll just say like going into Persona, like because I've also played Persona 5 and like Persona 5 is a cakewalk compared to Shin Megami Tensei, like in
right.
So
it's a lot more on the social systems and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So just like when you get into it, like kind of just know to reserve your MP more, like reserve your items more, like really try and only use those things when you desperately need them because they do not come often. Like even money,
and
like,
use that block.
So.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting mechanics in it that are like Cam was saying earlier that modernize it. Like the warp points are great for being able to travel. That's probably one of my biggest things from 4 to 5 is you had to run back and forth in 4. So having those warp points to be able to go back is really nice. And then like he was saying about saving your MP, there's items and stuff that you can find, like these just little collectible things that'll refill HP and MP for characters, which I think is a really cool addition as well. It did not quite make my top 5. It probably would have, but I was comparing it too much to 4. I just love the like demon school stuff from 4 that they had in that game. And then this game felt much more like Shin Megami Tensei 3, which is awesome. I really like 3, but there was just something magical about 4, and I was hoping that they'd go more into that direction of like the organizations of the apocalypse that 4 had. So I was kind of let down by that, but it's still an absolutely amazing game, and it definitely is up there in my top 10 for sure.
Ooh, I might have to check that out next year then. So I was very curious about it because I know obviously that Persona's a spin-off and stuff like that, but otherwise I know nothing about the series. So you've piqued my interest a bit. Let's move on and do our top 3s. And this is where some of the bigger hitters start coming in. So there is definitely going to be some conversation had around here. So Jordan, what is your number 3, please?
Yeah, this was an interesting one because this game was actually my number 2 last week when we did the Game for All Game of the Year show. And it switched. So this is Deathloop for me.
Interesting. Sean, what is your number 3, please?
So before I say it, I did run this by Luke, and he said it was okay. So my number 3 this year is the Mass Effect Trilogy Legendary Edition, and if I had to be specific, it would be number 2. It just proved to me that what's new is not always best, and what is old can be new again, and it's just a joy to play through those games again. So I'd be lying if I put any other game above it. They're classics. So
that's my number 10.
Really? Ooh. I've only played a bit of the first one in the remasters, and I never ever got around to playing 3. I only played 1 and 2, but I loved my time with Mass Effect.
I'm going to say something maybe controversial, but I think that there hasn't been a better game to come out since Mass Effect 2.
Wow.
Truly. I think Mass Effect 2 is like, there hasn't been a better game that's come out since.
I haven't had a single experience that was anything like Mass Effect 2. So I can definitely get on board with what you're saying there.
It's so good.
It just completely feels singular. Like we'll get on to Guardians soon-ish, but Guardians has got like a little bit of it, and then even in like Andromeda couldn't replicate anything near what that was.
There's other problems that Andromeda has.
Oh yeah, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely is. Jeff, what is your number 3, please?
My number 3 is Life is Strange: True Colors.
Very nice.
Absolutely fantastic game.
I believe that pops up a bit later on. Where is it? I believe it pops up again. So we will definitely talk about that one. Johnny, what is your number 3, please?
So this number 3 for me, one that I expected to be very underwhelming this year and surprised me greatly. Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah.
That barely did not make my top 5, but
same
Just
for me.
missed.
Same for me.
Nice. We will definitely have a talk about Guardians because that's the one I've literally been playing it today as well.
Can I ask one question real quick
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Johnny? What was it about the game and its presentation that made you not excited for it when it first was shown and whatnot?
Well, a couple things. One, having played Avengers, I thought it was going to be Avengers number 2. Second, looking at the footage from the events where they showed, the different cast, big shoes to fill, right, from the original cast. And it kind of felt like, the jokes weren't landing. The banter was not there. And when I actually played the game, it was the opposite. It did land, and it did work in its own unique way for me.
Awesome. MBZ, what is your number 3, please?
My number 3, I think, is probably the most cohesive work of art on my list, which is the Artful Escape. I think it's just like a singular game in so many ways, and fantastic thing.
Beautiful. Yeah. Matt P, I believe you have a very similar answer for.
I have the same answer. Yes, the Artful Escape in at number 3. I thought I was going to be the only one bringing this up today, and so I am chuffed that so many people have played it because
I loved it, man.
Yeah,
shockingly not talked about as much as I feel like it should have been within the industry, and I think I'm biased in a certain way because I feel like it connected with me. Like I feel like it would connect with content creators on like another level, maybe than other people. And so, but yeah, I absolutely adore that game. And so number 3.
Yeah, exactly the same here. It's a beautiful game. Endio, what is your number 3, please?
Number 3, I think this is probably I don't know if there's gonna be a lot of people who were into this, but my number 3 is Chivalry 2.
You're right. You are the only one that has Chivalry on this list.
Vindication.
Josh, what is your number 3, please?
I went with Metroid Dread. I loved the game. It felt so good to be playing a Metroid game again because I had played since Fusion, and it just I was able to pick it up and I could not put it down.
I played Fusion days before Dread, and they were great back to back.
Oh, nice.
When that opening cutscene, I'm like, oh my god, it's just picking up exactly where Fusion left off.
That's what really got me excited.
I found Fusion on a school bus. I don't remember when I was in elementary school. I found it, and the sticker had peeled off, so I had no idea what the game was, and no one claimed it. So I popped it in, and it was Metroid Fusion, and it changed. I was like, oh man, this is the game I want to play forever.
That's like the best mystery box you could have.
It was awesome. This is a quest item.
The kid that lost it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He changed me.
Yeah, he probably still thinks about that. He's probably dreading that.
He's probably on a podcast saying, "I lost my copy of Fusion when I was a kid."
Yeah, it just turns out it's someone else on this podcast. That would be something. Philip, what is your number 3, please?
Yeah, my number 3 is Returnal.
Awesome. And Keith, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Metroid Dread.
Awesome. Cam, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Inscription.
Awesome. And Tucker, what is your number 3, please?
My number 3 is The Forgotten City. I just played this a couple days ago on Game Pass, but I feel like it kind of flew under the radar. Sans one person that talked about it quite a bit, being Blessing Jr. from Kind of Funny, which is where I got the recommendation. But I played through it essentially in one sitting just because I was enraptured by it. I really do think it's one that needs a little more praise, a little more look, because it being sort of a remake of a mod and made by such a small team and telling such a creative time loop story in a year of like 5 time loop games. I really do think it handles all of that the best out of all those games that I've played. And it really is phenomenal. The only thing holding the game back is that facial animations are not good. The characters are very well acted and they're very interesting people to learn about, but they have very stiff facial animations, and it really can pull you out of it. But I think the strength of the game on every other front, especially environmental design, really just makes that not a problem. And plus, it's not very long. So, and I'm very into those kind of games. Also, tell them is 3 or 4 hours. This is 4 or 5. So I definitely highly recommend Forgotten City.
Yeah, it's an amazing game.
Really I did exactly the same. I think it was last week. It was just one I kept hearing popping up, and I was just like, cool, gonna try it. And then I blew through it, and it was just each new reveal, just like
Ironically enough, I forgot about it. So.
Damn.
That is
maybe you got one of the endings where the future's changed and you're one of the people infected.
Yeah, you had your mind wiped and just put back in the normal world then. Asa Green River had Lost Judgment, which is the only time that's been brought up on this one.
That's on my top 10, but it's not. It didn't make my top 5. It's very
also
good.
For me.
Awesome. And Paul has Persona 5 Strikers, which is
also in my top 10.
No way.
Just missed it. Just fucking like I was trying so hard.
My number 6.
I really want. Yeah, and it was my number 6. I was like, I really want to mention Persona 5 Strikers, so I'm very glad that someone else did. But I had to cut it. I was like, that made me sad. So.
Man, that's why again, because I really enjoyed Persona. I want to try that out, but
it's a really really good different genre sequel. The only thing that sucks about it is that it's a sequel to Persona 5, not Persona 5 Royal. Kasumi isn't in the game at all, and it feels wrong. It just feels wrong that she's not there.
That's the thing I learned about it, and I was playing Royal, I think, at the time they launched. I was like, but I'm so into like it couldn't quite do it.
This just lets them make Persona 5 Strikers Royale.
That's what I was just gonna say. And they might do it. Who knows?
They need I really hope that they do something where like if they do like I've heard rumors that if this like Persona 4 Ultimax remaster does well, that they're going to do a Persona 5 one. And if they don't bring Kasumi back for that, because those fighting games are actual sequels, like they are canonical sequels to like Persona 4 Golden. So it's like that'd be really cool if they did that, and then Kasumi's back and things like that, because she's a great character, and it just felt very. That was like my biggest criticism, is like she's just so obviously absent and it just feels wrong. So
yeah. For sure. So my number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm gonna go to Matt because he had that at number 4. What did you think of Guardians?
I still haven't finished it, but I absolutely love it. And I'm a huge Marvel guy, and so I'm particularly biased on it, I think. And for me, my number 4 and 5 are quite interesting, right? Like Hitman for me is the first Hitman game I've ever played. And for me, it's like all gameplay, no story. Like I couldn't give a crap about who Agent 47 is or why he's doing any of this. It's just scratching that almost Bloodborne itch for me of looping through these levels. So
I will say that if you actually play all 3 Hitman games, the story is actually really good.
I'm sure it's great.
I did just that. Because I played the first one and I picked up the third one, and I was like, well, I might as well pay a bit extra to get the whole collection. Played it all through there, and I really enjoyed the story. It's got a very
it's a good story,
kind of like James Bond, Daniel Craig kind of reboot feel to it. And it does do some interesting things. I would have liked it to be fleshed out a bit more, but that's because I'm story heavy sort of thing.
I liked Hitman 3. It's not in my top 10 or anything, but it's like for me, it's like I'm largely a one and done gamer when it comes to a lot of games. So the games that are built upon these sandboxes of playing differently, that aspect sometimes is lost on me. So with Hitman, it's like I do the levels once, I move on, I get credits, and then unless I really, really love the game, I don't go back through it. So a lot of the appeal isn't for me. I like the game, but the replayability appeal is a huge part of that game, and it just doesn't capture me in that way. So
hugely. And I think that's why it's sort of lower on my list, because the gameplay connected with me, but the story didn't. And then Guardians is kind of the opposite, where the story connected with me and the gameplay is just fine. And those two are almost interchangeable on my list for opposite reasons almost.
I think Guardians is very much the Control or Jedi Fallen Order this year, where it's got a solid story, the gameplay's fine, sort of thing. Except for Jedi, because
gameplay is more than fine.
It is, to be fair.
I would say they've both got more than fine gameplay, but
fair.
You.
It was the stories that really gripped me in those, but it was also they were a bit of a mess bug wise and stuff like that. So I've been playing it.
If we were ranking story here, Guardians would be second on my list.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I think what the strongest part of the story of that game is obviously the characters, number one. The performances are excellent, but it's the pacing that really got me to the point where the consistent reveals at the end of each chapter are so engaging, and you're always moving on to something else, that it was one more chapter. I feel like I'm getting close to the end. I really want to see what happens, to the point where I played that game for 5 hours or something the day I beat it, just burning through what was happening. And while the gameplay did get a little repetitive and areas certainly could have been shorter individually, the story is so strong, and I'm so excited to see what they can do with a sequel where they learn from the errors they made in the first one, which I don't think are plentiful. Again, that's my number 6 for this year. But man, what a surprising game! People just were not excited for that before it came out.
The facial capture had no business being that good.
Like
even on Rocket.
Like, they did so good with that, and like I almost felt like the supporting characters.
Yes.
Like I'm trying to remember the names because it's been a while, but it's like Lady Hellbender.
Yeah.
I think it's like her facial animation looked amazing. The voice fit her perfectly.
And I think she was Cassandra from AC Odyssey, wasn't she? Or at least extremely similar.
Sure.
Lady Hellbender.
I might have to take a look.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
I brought
Guardians was fantastic.
It absolutely was. I'm still playing. I'm in the final 3 chapters, just before we started recording, and like one of the things that really sticks out to me is kind of the same thing I brought up for Mass Effect earlier, where I spent so much time in Mass Effect just going around and talking to everybody each time I had the chance on my ship, and I do that here as well. And anytime you can pick up one of those items that relates to one of the characters and going to talk to them, they are just so well written, so endearing. Like I love just spending time and talking to them. Rocket could be a bit of a dick, but like
he's supposed to be though.
Exactly, he's supposed to be. But then you get past that and you get to his heart, and it's just
his character
so
arc
well
is
written.
so good.
Yeah, and they all are. They've all got moments like that where they're all a bit of a dick, but then you get to the root of why and you flesh it out, and it's just so wonderfully done.
And it's also like the setting of the different planets you go to. Each really unique, really well created, right? It's visually interesting, and there are things in the environment that kind of come into play in the gameplay and in the story as well. And for someone like myself who's a sucker for like space sci-fi adventures, you know, that's a hell of a cool adventure to play through.
Yeah,
I was surprised how many environments there were. Like they just kept revealing that. I'm like, holy crap, there's another area. I'm like, man, I really hope there's a winter level. Oh my god, there's a winter level.
Yeah.
Like
I've just got there.
Like it's
I also want to bring up something real
spoilers.
quick about the game as well. If anybody's played on the PC and you have a capable PC to play it on, and you enable ray tracing, oh my god, that game
they just added ray tracing to Series X and PS5.
That does not run well. I don't recommend that. Stick to your 3080. Yeah.
I mean, on PC, if you have the ability to play it with ray tracing, there's so many reflective, surfaces.
And then just taking the screenshots or the photos of it's like, wow,
I was
they
gonna
did
say,
a great job with this game.
I have spent half my time playing this game in photo mode because it is just such a pretty game because you've got so many vibrant, even that first area with all the pink goo.
Oh my god, yeah.
It just like it's so memorable. It just stands out from anything else. And like Guardians was really what I wanted Ratchet and Clank to be this year, because I adore the Ratchet and Clank trilogy, but I wanted it to be a bit series rather than trilogy. But I wanted it to be that bit more, and Guardians has really scratched that itch for me.
I've not played it yet. It's currently sitting in my Epic Store basket, waiting to be using a coupon on it. And I think everyone talking about it here has definitely convinced me to pick it up. So
that's what this is for.
Yeah,
it is.
I think that's
do
the
it
same
now.
for me.
Live buying.
I mean, a lot of the things that you guys are talking about with this reminds me of the way that I look at Outer Worlds, the character development and the worlds, like the different environments. So I think I'm gonna definitely check it out now. I was kind of like, I don't know, I was never really into Guardians of the Galaxy that much, but I guess now I can.
Well, it has that Fallout, like Rocket will remember that.
Yeah,
it does as well. Yeah,
Telltale Games thing. Yeah,
it's got a really odd mix of a bit of that, like you just mentioned, Jeff. It's got a bit of Uncharted to it. It's got a bit of like Final Fantasy VII remake in the combat systems and stuff like that. It is a weird kind of mesh of games, but it works.
Do you know what the bad part about Guardians is? It just makes me wish that is what Avengers could have been.
Oh, here we go.
You know what I mean? Like we
don't go there.
That
only leads to sadness.
The good thing about this is I'm not saying Avengers is a bad game, but they looked at Avengers, they went, this didn't meet our expectations, it's not doing well in reception. Let's not do this again.
Absolutely.
So
yes,
It's like they drag the multiplayer folder to the trash bin and be like,
It feels like the other side of the
Close.
coin for how Marvel games have been received the last few years. I mean, they're so polar opposite, because I think that, you know, I enjoyed the characters in Avengers to a certain extent, but these are my favorite version of the Guardians, and I think that's what really sticks with me is Endio, what you said, you're not a fan of the Guardians necessarily, but these are the best realized versions of these characters that we've seen. So even if the movie versions don't connect to you, there's more elements here to these. So that's,
yeah, I was that same route where like these were my favorite iterations, because like I don't like Drax or Gamora in the movies at all. Because
you know,
the
I have
character-
to agree. I think Gamora is way better in this.
100%.
Yeah, and like
100%.
they did a good job with everybody. I mean, Groot. I mean, obviously, him and Rocket, I think, have the most MCU look brought to the games.
Yeah.
Just with how Rocket was generally a lot bigger and not small framed. You know, you take a look at Marvel vs. Capcom when he was in it. But no, like the iteration for these characters are fantastic. The vocal performances are fantastic. Like Peter Quill, it took me about half the game to like him.
Yes,
And I think
that one is a bit.
when he's being more dramatic, he's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the very beginning of the game and through most of it, he's whiny. Every third word is Rocket, and like it takes a while, but once he gets into that dramatic role, he's fantastic. But it's Drax and Gamora, they did fantastic. The iterations for those characters are great.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Absolutely. Endio, how was your time with Chivalry 2? You're the only person that has it on the list here.
Well, I mean, I didn't just pick it so I get my own little moment here, but it does have a dedicated screaming button, and I mean, that's a great quality in any game. It's like you literally could just be like, I'm gonna scream now. I'm gonna scream for like the next 10 minutes. I'm gonna be chopping people in half and screaming the whole time, and that's what I did.
What
and
does
I kept
that do
doing
for you? The
Nothing.
scream
At all. Literally, you just scream.
It's amazing.
That's all
the
it is.
beginning of every round is just
Intimidation
everybody
tactics.
screaming.
Just
And-
intimidation, exactly.
And that's really, I
Wow.
mean, that's really all it is. It's really like, it's very visceral. It's super easy to pick up because you're just swinging, you know, swords and axes and stuff. But there's a lot of depth to it as well. Like there 1v1 tournaments that are like, you know, people are pulling off weird, crazy tactics, and like there's blocking, and there's like the different you can parry and counter, and you can do like kicks and the knockdown blocks, and there's a lot of different little tweaks and stuff that you can do to be really good, or you can just, you know, run out there with an axe and scream until you win, or, you know, even when you lose, it's still pretty fun. It's just really it's rewarding the whole way through. Like win or lose, you're chopping people's heads off, you're chopping their arms off. You know, they added a quality, they added a mechanic where you can lose both of your arms, but you can headbutt people in the process. And if you
Monty Python.
kill someone, when you headbutt them, you grow your arms back.
Oh, that's
Like,
great.
why is that not like, that's the best thing that could ever be added to a video game?
This sounds like a game I should be playing now,
Yeah.
just because of that.
I think it kind of flew under the radar because it had some issues with like hit recognition and everything in the beginning. Well, for a while actually, but they've worked a lot of that out. They worked all the matchmaking things out. It's cross-platform. It's just a lot of fun to play. I mean, it gets really frustrating for me because I'm like, I want to be really good at it, and I'm not really good at anything. Like any game I played, I'm like, I want to be good at this. I'm not. But I keep trying.
You're good at
and it's
selling
fun.
Chivalry 2 to people, because I'm more interested in
big
this
time.
game now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's one of the few multiplayer games where even dying, I wasn't upset, just because I'd see myself die and a leg go this way and my head go that way. I'm like, oh my God. And I'd be, let's just do this again. And then you just run back in there and the same thing will happen. You'd be like, all right, let's do this again. Like it's fun. It's absolutely fun.
And you got like it's like 8 or 10 seconds, you're back in the fight.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sit there and look, you know, stare at yourself failing too long. So, you know, it's a good cycle, good game loop there.
Yeah, it sounds like a ton of fun. Sounds like an absolute ton of fun. I'd kill to have like a Monty Python suit in there, and I would just aim to be the guy without any
Knight
arms all
always
the time.
triumphs.
There's a lot of cosmetics. You can put something pretty close together honestly.
There we go then. Awesome. Before we move on to our number twos, I really want to talk about the Artful Escape. Both MBZ, Matt, and I had this at 4.
I think out of the 3 actually.
Yeah, no, you did. I've compared this in part to Journey on a couple of occasions with the way that it just brings everything together, and it just kind of, especially that first when you first meet, I forget his name, but
Carl Weathers' character.
Yeah. When you first meet him and you just have a guitar session with him, and all the colors and all the sounds and everything just comes together.
The city lights up as you play and jam.
It's so beautiful. Oh my god!
I haven't played anything like it in such a long time, and it just reminded me a lot of that Journey bit when you're going through. You're just sliding through the sands and going past those pillars. It was such a unique and such a wonderful experience with me.
I think it's just got this real vibe to it, and it's just that cohesion of the visuals and the music together. I don't think I've ever played a game that just meshes them in such
and the storytelling
way. And then the narrative is really interesting about like being your own person, like creatively, right, and like stepping out of the shadow of someone else. Like I think it has a great message. I think there's a moment kind of in the middle of the game where you do a kind of create a character thing where you create your own like outfit for yourself. And I think it's probably the best use I've ever seen of that in a game used for narrative purpose, right, where it like you become your own version of who you want to be, and it's just a cool sequence of going through this kind of shopping mall and picking out all the parts of your costume, then coming out the other side and like performing as you're supposed to be. Just a really clever thing, I thought.
And it has its own version of the chivalry yell button. You can just shred whenever you want.
Love jumping and just knee sliding into a slope. Just feels so good.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful game.
My one problem with that game is I did feel the jump was not quite as large as I wanted it to be. I found myself, sliding down and trying to make a jump, but then slipping off the edge or something. It's a little bit frustrating. And the checkpointing is also not phenomenal. But again, those sections aren't particularly long. The game isn't very long. So that's not a huge knock against it. But when that's such a huge part of the gameplay is doing that sliding and jumping and stuff, I wish it had been a little bit tighter, because otherwise
for sure.
It probably would have been in my top 5 as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say that was kind of my only critique of the game, really. It was that those sections, whilst fun, aren't like challenge based in any way. Like you can't fail in this game, and so like you could just hold the stick right if you wanted to and finish the game, right? Like there's no elements of doing well to that game. So yeah, like I was trying to do like
it's not as easy as My Name Is Mayo, so
well, this is true. But yeah, I was trying to do like knee slides into jumps and like keep everything going really well, but there was no incentive to do any of that, and that's kind of what I wish it had, something along those lines. But
it's obviously got the kind of Simon Says music stuff, which I actually kind of liked, because it's not the type of Simon Says where you listen to a whole thing and then have to do it in sequence. You can play it as they're playing it, so it almost creates these harmonies as you go along, which I thought was really cool, actually.
And they were very smart with that as well, with how because sometimes you didn't have to mimic a sequence. You could play whatever chord from the selection you wanted. And, they've been smart about it so that whatever chord you play is in the key and works out kind of, magically. It's kind of like if you've ever played a xylophone where every note there is in that scale. So, you can play over a song in that scale and literally anything will work, right? So it's that kind of, they use it very well. And that game made me want to pick up a guitar every time I played it. After I would pick up an actual guitar, and just beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, it's such a wonderful game. I love that to bits. It's one I lasted through as well. Like that was, I think I did it in like a day in the end. I think I just sat there and just went through. So, Jordan, what is your number 2, please?
Game that a few of you have spoken about already. A game that I think has some of the best level design I've ever seen, and that is Hitman 3.
Awesome.
I was blown away by this game, as you know, Luke. It was my number 1 for so long this year, and it got knocked off by a game I didn't expect, which we'll come to later.
Awesome. Sean, for your
everyone's gonna have to suspend their dislike for the company just for a minute, because it is a remake of my favorite game of all time. So that's Diablo 2 Resurrected. It is like a full remake. I think a lot of people got confused and think it's just a remaster, but it's kind of got that Shadow of the Colossus by Blue Point vibe to it, where it's built on the bones of the old game. But I love Diablo 2 anyway, but they've, first of all, they brought it to console. They did it well. They used a lot of the control scheme from Diablo 3, so it works really well. I can't excuse any of the server issues they had at launch, but that's sort of par for the course for Blizzard at this point. But apart from that, I've clocked in the most hours of any on this game of any game this year, and I will continue to play. I think it's like the Diablo 2 sort of like revolutionized or almost invented the sort of loot game, like we wouldn't have things like Borderlands or Destiny without Diablo. So and playing it now, it's still like the best version of it. Yeah, awesome. Let me know if anyone wants to play.
Would you say that's a good stepping in point for someone who's never played a dungeon crawler like that? Because I've never experienced any of that, but Diablo 2 I've always had an inkling of playing.
Right. I would personally jump into Diablo 3. I think they just streamlined a lot of things.
Sure.
Diablo 2, you need to read like a manual, like not like a 12-page in the box manual, but like a 200-page strategy guide full of all the items in the game, because they just there's no hand holding. Or come play with me and go in with someone who knows what they're doing. But yeah, it's not an easy game to jump into by any stretch. Whereas Diablo 3, they really ironed out those kinks. Or go play the Ascent, because that's kind of like Diablo Light, very much. So yeah, Diablo 2 Resurrected, my number 2 of the year.
Cool. Jeff, what is your number 2, please?
My number 2 is for a game that I've never played more than an hour of any of the previous entries. I haven't enjoyed them, mainly because of the format that they've been on. I was hesitant to buy it, ended up getting it, loved it. It was my game of the year up until about a week ago, and that is Metroid Dread.
Very nice.
I have not enjoyed the previous Metroid games as either like playing the ones on like the 3DS, which I think is one of the most cumbersome to hold consoles. I just couldn't get into it. I tried the grips on it and I just could not get it. And I don't know if it's just with how the system is, like in terms of like the width of it or how it was holding it, but I could never get into making them feel fun to control.
Do you have an
and
XL
Dread still has that. Yeah, I've got, I think 7 or 8 3DSs and XLs and stuff, just based off all of the collectors ones and stuff, even though I absolutely hate it. No, like Dread is just, it has that controller gymnastics to it, but something about the Switch and something about the Pro controller just makes that game so playable. Yeah, if we're going to talk about it later, I'm not too sure, but it is absolutely fantastic.
That's the one I hate that I haven't gone to play yet this year. That's the one I really want to try and squeeze in somewhere, but I don't even own it at the minute. I'm really looking forward to trying that one out eventually. Johnny, what is your number 2, please?
My number 2 is Resident Evil Village.
Ooh, very nice. Yeah. Very nice. MBZ,
yes.
What is your number 2?
My number 2 is a game I definitely did not expect to be on this list at the start of the year. It's Forza Horizon 5. I played some of Forza Horizon 4 and I liked it. And I think mainly I wanted to play it was because I lived in Edinburgh for most of my life, and Horizon 4 has Edinburgh, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. I've never seen this city like digitally before. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the only reason I jumped into it. And I played like 5 or 6 hours of it. I was like, this is cool. This is okay. And then I don't know what it is, but 5 just absolutely grabbed me. And I dumped 30 hours into it in the course of like a couple of weeks and just could not stop. Like maybe it's the combination of I got a new PC this year and a nice new monitor and like running that at 1440p over 100 frames, and I got a new controller as well. I've been using a 360 controller, wired 360 controller on my PC for the last like 8 years. So I got a Series X controller with it, and so obviously that has like some nice rumble stuff with Forza as well. So I think it was just the combination of that plus the game is just so exceptionally well made that it absolutely just got its hooks into me, and I couldn't stop playing it. It was just such a joy just driving around Mexico. I loved it.
Yeah. I kind of had the opposite of you. I got really into 4 I spent loads of time in 4, and then like 5 just didn't quite feel different enough for me to keep going with it. But it is a fantastic game. It's absolutely fantastic game. Matt, what is your number 2, please?
Yeah, a game that we've already talked a lot about on here, but It Takes Two is my number 2.
Beautiful, beautiful. Endio, what is your number 2, please?
I'm also in the Metroid Dread group here for number 2.
Beautiful. Yeah, I really want to play that game. Josh, what is your number 2, please?
My number 2 is a game called Fantasian. It's another Apple Arcade
yeah.
game. I was just blown away by this game. The big thing for me that got me really excited is that all of the environments are actually miniatures that have been like hyperscanned in 3D, and that
They're
you're running
dioramas.
around.
Yeah,
the
That's
diorama.
cool. I gotta
And
look this up.
It's incredible. And I've got on my iPhone 11, you got the OLED screen. There were tons of times where like I was sitting with my fiance, I'm like, just look at this for a minute. Just look how beautiful this environment is, and running around. The combat for me, phenomenal. It has a different enough spin on JRPG mechanics for me, where everything is like piercing enemies, or you could like your magic attacks, you slide your finger and they curve, so you're trying to take out as many opponents as possible. And there's a system in which you can like collect all of your random encounters and just fight all of those enemies at one time. So sometimes it gets a little tricky because you may like overestimate how many healing items you have or your magic or whatnot, but being able to like go through an area and then it's like, all right, I'm going to fight all 50 of these enemies at one time and grind out. That was a huge deal for me. The game was split up into 2 parts that all came out this year, so that was really cool. The first part is more linear based, where the second part is a little bit more open world. So you get to experience everything and decide how you want the story to unfold, or kind of like when big events happen. And then what was great for me is you like, as someone who loves JRPGs, there's that new game plus mode. And for this one, it felt like there was a big reason to, because as you do the new game plus, you're able to finally unlock like all of your skill tree. The boss fights were really cool because in the skill tree, you can like turn in points and remap your skill tree at any time. So certain bosses required you to need certain abilities. So it wasn't like okay, I'm just going to unlock everything and then go fight, because it didn't matter what level you were. A lot of these bosses were really, really challenging. So I felt like there was a lot more strategy in it than before. Like in the new game plus, they actually add an ability where you can move faster, so you can progress through the game quicker. So there's more incentive to kind of keep replaying. I think I put on this game, like I have like 200 plus hours into this game, because once I beat it, it's just one of those things like I can't stop playing it. So I go back through and play again. I'm like, all right, this time I'm going to focus on this character. So I can't recommend it enough. If you have Apple Arcade, I highly recommend checking out Fantasian, if not for the visuals alone, but it's a lot of fun.
I've literally just started downloading it on my phone.
I have a question. Because like, unlike you, Josh, I don't touch mobile games with a 10-foot pole. I'm just that's not how I want to play games.
Yep.
Do you think this game will be ported to consoles in a way that makes sense with its mechanics? Because you're saying like there's like some touch stuff, and I'm like, how would that translate to console if it got a port?
I definitely think
I'm hoping
it could.
that it comes to Switch.
For the first half of the game, I just played it on my phone with the touch controls. But then for the second half, I played entirely on the backbone. So even then, it's just the analog sticks become the movement.
Okay, that's good.
At certain times, I felt like if I really needed to get like very specific with trying to curve, where rarely did I find that the joystick was hindering me where like the touch controls weren't. I would hope this game does come to other platforms, because I want people to experience it. But I also know that like Apple is the one who produced it, so that can be a little weird. If you have a backbone controller, or even just like any controller that can connect to like an Apple TV, it definitely works. It feels good. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely it's the game that came out this year that I wanted to play more than any other, but it was just like that mobile barrier. I was like, nope. And with it being a Sakaguchi and Umatsu game, I was just like 100% like I want to play that. So
I'm in the same exact camp as Cam. Like that's the one thing holding me back. I've been looking at it all year, and I really want to check it out, but that mobile barrier for me is definitely a strong one.
The idea behind getting the backbone for me personally was like this is a game I'm going to spend like 100 hours into. I want it to feel good. So playing on that, like if that kind of gets over that mobile hump, because I totally understand it, but I am a big mobile gamer. I don't know what it is. I think it's just because my first console I owned was the Game Boy. So I just like having something in my hand. I can play on the couch. Plus it's easier to play where my fiance she can play Switch on the TV or PlayStation. I can just hear in my own little world. But if you can get over that hump or get a peripheral to help you, I cannot recommend it enough.
I do wonder, because Android games are going to be playable through like PCs and stuff like that soon. I do wonder if Apple follows suit in some way, shape, or form.
I'm hoping so, because it left off on a potential like sequel. So if it needs more people to play it, so I can get more of this game, I'm hoping they do that. But it is
That's
Apple.
why I'm waiting for.
Go for it. No, I was going to say a lot of Apple Arcade games have come to other platforms, but I don't know if do you think it was Apple actually involved in the funding of Fantasian?
To my understanding, yes. It was one of those big deals where they're like, "Hey, look at what we did! Like you love Final Fantasy, you're gonna love this game. Come over to Apple Arcade." So because they were pushing it that hard, it makes me a little nervous that it won't go out to other places. But I would hope that be like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna put it on PC and now go use Apple Arcade on PC somehow for whatever reason and give us more money." I'm hoping if they can make money on it, they will.
Well with the mouse as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Switch with the touchscreen and even probably with Switch,
it would be perfect on the Switch.
Yeah, they could do like motion stuff for docked mode as well.
Of course,
so it does work.
So I'm hoping for it.
Awesome. Philip, what is your number 2, please? Oh, you're muted, dude.
Sorry, my dogs were messing around on the bed, so I wanted to make sure I was muted. So mine is Monster Hunter Rise.
Very nice. I completely forgot it came out this year, as I said to you.
I was wondering if that was going to come up.
Yeah. I know it's been super popular. I know a bunch of people that love that game.
I'm holding out for the PC release, though.
Yeah, number 9 on the Switch. I just can't. I'm sorry. I've got too much time invested in the PC version of Monster Hunter World, and I went back to try to play it on the Switch. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that.
It's just not the same.
Fair enough.
No, it's one of the biggest kind of letdowns. When I heard that there wasn't going to be any cross-save, cross-play between Switch and PC, it kind of
Can I just say something real quick about that? We're in an age now where we're seeing games for cross progression and cross saves, and it's getting ridiculous that we have developers who are like, we don't care about this. This needs to be something that's a staple.
Absolutely.
Across the board now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody wants to play a game like Rise and put hundreds of hours in the Switch version. Go, oh, hey, there's a better version come out for the PC. I can play on the PC. But hey, you got to start from the beginning because you can't bring your content over.
Yeah.
Especially the type of game,
Seeing the game in higher resolution with like 60 plus frames per second in the videos for it, and then knowing that I'm not going to be able to port my hundreds of hours of gameplay over to the PC version, it hurts a lot.
And it might hurt in the long run because again, your scenario, and you might go, well, it's not worth my time, therefore I'm not going to buy it. There's a sale you lost.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And by the way, just to add on, the tech is there even on Switch because Divinity Original Sin 2, the Switch edition, had cross save.
Yeah.
Hades as well.
I was going to say Hades.
It's not like oh, you can't do it on Switch because their hardware sucks or something. They have the capability as well.
I think this is more a Capcom thing than anything else, in Japanese studios.
Yeah, probably. Keith, what is your number 2, please?
My number 2 is Forza Horizon 5. I'm a big fan of racing games. I love Forza Horizon 3 and 4. Was kind of iffy on 5, but the improvements they put in 5, the new location they put in 5, some of the biggest areas in all the Horizon games are in 5. I love the accessibility options. I love the fact that what they did in that game. It's amazing. It's a great racing game. And for people who watch this and listen to this and go, well, it's just like 4. No, it's not. It is better than 4 in every way.
Fair.
If you like racing games.
100%. Awesome.
Yeah, so one thing with Forza is like, as soon as I found out that my Veloster, like that's what I actually drive, was in the game, I'm like, well, that's my car for life. I'm not driving anything else.
That too. I'm sad that my car's not in the
drive
game,
this
but
Jeep, but I'm like,
it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not someone who's ever played any other racing games except for Mario Kart, and obviously very different. And so I had no interest
almost
in this game.
the same thing. You're good.
And but Forza Horizon 5 is so high quality in everything that it does that even as someone who doesn't connect with that racing gameplay, like I just don't really understand the mechanics of it. I still have a very deep appreciation for everything that game does. I played 12 hours or something, and I've had my fill, but I see what's there, and I it's so impressive.
It's better than Mario Kart in so many ways because when you run off the track, you don't get you have to wait a couple seconds to get put back on the track.
Yeah,
The
you haven't got
rewind
some
as
weird
well,
cameraman.
which is great. I love the rewind feature in the game, but also like
Yeah.
you don't even have to do any of the races, right? Like part of the joy of that game for me was like, I'm just gonna drive around this map, unlock every road, and just bash all these boards. You know, like
Yes,
that's
exactly.
what I
Yeah,
did for the most
yeah.
part. And it's great.
That was my
especially
favorite part.
figuring out those hard to get ones. and,
Forza
like,
Horizon is more than a racing game, and I think that a lot of people don't actually realize that.
Mhm.
And then when you get people to play it for the first time, and they see that there's so much more to do than racing, and you barely have to touch racing in that game to progress through the game.
Yeah.
That's incredible design.
My missus has been playing it non-stop for ages now, and I rarely see her actually doing races. She'll be doing any of the side stuff, like you said, about the billboards, or she'll be doing like the Eliminator and stuff like that. That is such a varied game. It is very, very cool. Cam, what is your number 2, please?
Yeah, my number 2 is Chicory, A Colorful Tale.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to getting into that. That looks wonderful. That looks like a wonderful game. And Tucker, what is your number 2, please?
My number 2 is a game that pretty much surprised me because I'd never played a game in this franchise before, but Life is Strange True Colors just blew me away. I played this game in like 3 days, and it's not a particularly short game. I think it probably took me 15 hours to finish it. But I was just so engrossed with the story after that first chapter. There's such a great twist that really pulls you through the end of the game in terms of how it changes all the characters and the environments that they built, the tone of the community and the writing of all these characters, and the amount of control you have over not necessarily the progression of the story, but your relationship with everyone around you and how that ends up playing into the ending of the game is really what impressed me. And there's also just a surprising amount of variety within the chapters. One of them, you end up sort of playing a Dungeons and Dragons style live action role play, which is just so charming and so fun. And it really reframes the characters in an interesting way.
Nice.
And I was just blown away. And I do think that the actress for Alex Chen, I can't remember her name, should have won the game. Erica Mori. Thank you, Erica Mori.
Yeah.
She should have won.
That was her first role.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh,
well,
wow.
she killed it. The facial
Yeah.
animation for Alex is on par with like Naughty Dog games, I really think. And she's my Game of the Year winner in my heart for that performance. Maggie Robertson was good as Lady Dimitrescu, but nowhere near the depth of Alex Chen. Phenomenal game.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
the game was really, really fantastic. Like, I wasn't too sure if Deck 9 was going to have the chops because I thought Before the Storm was fine. I thought it was fine. Like, 1 was my favorite, and then Before the Storm for sure. 2 doesn't exist for me at all. But
We don't talk
True
about
Colors, yeah. What 2? Did they make? No.
Never
True
happened.
Colors was, it was interesting to see how Deck 9 was going to take it now that they're the new main development house on Life is Strange, and the swap to the new engine was much needed and makes that game look fantastic, even with having that Life is Strange type of art style to it. But the characters were nice, the open environments was fantastic. The choices had a lot of weight, especially with like pulling emotions, because like you could go in and change a certain scene with time travel in the first one, but if you do certain things, your character's actions change on that scene. And so it's interesting to see that kind of play out, and I thought it was fantastic. I think releasing all the episodes at once was the strongest play they could have done.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because that's what pulled
that
me
emotional
into
it. Like it wasn't like the first ones where you're distracted for 3 months, you come back and you're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah. For me, True Colors isn't in my top 5, but it could have easily been there on another day when I think about this list again, because character-wise and story-wise, this is the game I'm most connected to this year.
Nice.
It doesn't have the gameplay depth necessarily
of course,
other games, but it's doing something with its story and characters that not many games do, and I think more people should play it. So yeah, I'm with you guys.
Awesome. I gotta play through like the trilogy when that all eventually comes out. because they delayed it recently.
Yeah.
So Asa gave us It Takes Two, and Paul also gave us Resident Evil Village.
Oh.
So we are going to blast through our number ones and get to our final top 10. So Jordan, what is your number one game of the year?
This was easy for me because Tim Schafer created a masterpiece, and it is Psychonauts 2.
Amazing. Sean, what is your game of the year?
Returnal.
Beautiful. Jeff, what is your game of the year, please?
Well, it should be. I spent $1,000 that day getting the console and then the game and then the controller. So Halo Infinite for the win, baby.
Awesome. Johnny, what is your game of the year, please?
Mine is It Takes Two.
Beautiful. MBZ.
Bought out by Housemark. Or not Housemark. Hazelight, my bad. I tried to bring back the joke and I failed.
MBZ, what is your game of the year, please?
So my favorite game of all time is Metroid Fusion. So I'm that guy who's been waiting 20 years for this sequel.
Nice.
With a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
And the fact that it delivered just makes me incredibly happy. So Metroid Red with a bullet is my number one.
Awesome. Endio, what is your game of the year, please?
Inscription.
Awesome. I really want to play that. Really want to get to that one. Josh, what is your game of the year, please?
My game of the year is Neo: The World Ends With You.
Wow.
I respect it. I respect it.
It's a game when I first saw the trailer, I was scared. I was like, I don't know if this is what I want. Like, I have been waiting for more World Ends With You since I finished the first one. I don't know if this is what I want. And I played that demo they released, and I think that demo is the best thing they could have done for the game, because I was like, I cannot wait to play this game, and I loved every single minute I spent in Neo: The World Ends With You.
So what I'll say really quickly about that game, because I'm sure no one else is going to pick it, is that I played the first, I was exposed to The World Ends With You through Kingdom Hearts, because they, Dream Drop Distance, Neku and them showed up.
Heck yeah.
I played the first one right before the second one, because people are just like, oh, this is like low key, like this is like straight up like one of the best DS games, blah blah blah. And honestly, like I kind of walked away like with middling feelings about it.
For sure.
I like the characters, gameplay was fine, and I had issues with other things as well. And then I like Neo started super strong for me. I was like, this is great, I'm really digging it. But I feel like about I want to say like a third of the way through, maybe halfway through, it kind of started like going down for me. I still think it's a great game.
I know
it's still in my top 10, but like I didn't love it as much as you, but like I super respect you picking it, because it's a great game that obviously a lot of people didn't play because it was like $15 on Switch during Black Friday.
It breaks my heart. It makes me so scared.
And it sucks too, because it is heavily reliant on the story of the first game, which is super old now. And
yes, it is a fan service game for sure.
Yeah, so it's one of those things like I just want to say like super respects the pick.
I appreciate it.
Nice.
I just want to say really quick, shout out to a friend of mine, Ryan Colt Levy, who voice acted in Shin Megami Tensei 5 and World Ends With You.
Played the prince.
Awesome.
Oh, he played the prince. Okay, that's cool.
He played the prince, and I respect it because I know big shoes to fill. But also, it's cool like hearing a voice for, I don't know, I won't get into it, but hearing voices for characters you don't really get a whole lot of, and like I love the Neo: The World Ends With You.
Paul Castro, who voices Rindu, just followed me the other day on Twitter because I followed him. I was like, oh, okay, I know you're Rindu. So
speaking of voices, I'm a little bit annoyed there's not a Metal Gear game right now, because we could get Phil to do a really cool voice.
Just want to say, you're all pretty good.
Wow.
that was
best in the business, baby.
Matt, what was your game of the year?
It's already been mentioned. Halo Infinite taking the number one spot. I literally rolled credits literally before we got on this call, maybe 10 minutes.
Oh wow. Fair play.
Good. And that's what inspired the suit.
Yeah. Philip, what is your game of the year, please?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised to hear another number one for Inscription, but it's Inscription.
Awesome. Keith, what is your game of the year, please?
My game of the year is Death's Door.
Amazing.
Love that game. Phenomenal game.
Amazing. It is indeed. Cam, what is your game of the year, please?
My game of the year is Returnal.
Beautiful. And Tucker, what is your game of the year, please?
My game of the year for 2021 is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which I don't feel is a very common pick for game of the year. And obviously, it was nominated at the Game Awards, but I don't hear a lot of people mentioning it. I think only once in this call. But as someone who had not really experienced the Ratchet and Clank formula before, I'd only played the 2016 reboot. I thought this game hit on every mark that I look for in a game. I really do think it's unparalleled in its environmental design, the breadth of the combat, the way it takes advantage of the hardware of the PS5 with traveling through rifts and how that impacts gameplay. It's not revolutionary, but I made a review for this game in which I closed it out by saying it might not change the world, but I think there's something to be said for taking the wheel and polishing it until it shines. I do feel like this is a game that feels so purposeful in every bit of its element and centered around Ratchet and Clank being good characters, but Rivet and Kit being just standouts in terms of how their personalities interact with previously established characters and all of that. I mean, I this is a trend in my top 5. I played through this game just in a burn session and got the platinum at like 3 a.m. one night because I was so close. And I'm so happy that I did, because it's one of those games that incentivizes you to complete everything, and everything has a reward that ties into combat, that ties into story, and ties into how you're progressing through the world. And if they make a third one of these games on PS5, I don't even know how I'm gonna feel about that. It's one of the most exciting moments of my life.
I really hope they do. Because the Rift Apart
Insomniac a little busy right now, though, so that's on the back burner.
They're making 7 Marvel games right now.
Oh God.
Yeah, 100%. I really hope they do get to do another one that's a bit. They can get away from having to show off what the PS5 could do a little bit more and just be more of what it wants to be.
Yeah.
So Asa also picked Halo Infinite, and Paul picked It Takes Two. My game of the year is Death's Door, and I just adore that game. I gushed a lot about it for a good while now, so I won't go too heavy on it here. But we have everybody's top 5s all together, and we have a pretty solid. It's top 11 because 2 are joint right at the bottom. So I'm going to run through our top 11 currently. So at joint 10th, we have Guardians of the Galaxy and Resident Evil Village with 8 points. We have The Forgotten City at 9 points. Is at 9th with 9 points. That's a lovely bit of symmetry. Forza Horizon 5 and The Artful Escape are tied at 8 and 7 with 11 points. Inscription and Death's Door are joint at 5 with 13 points. Both, like I said, I really, really want to get to Inscription. Number 4 is Returnal with 17 points. That was our Game for All Game of the Year. Just squeaked through on that one. And our top 3 is very, very interesting. So we have Halo Infinite at 3 with 18 points. Metroid Dread at 2 with 21. So our first game of the year, first collective game of the year with 23 points is It Takes Two.
Wow. There we go.
Wonderful.
Nice.
It's another
we went through
wardrobe
this experiment.
Yeah.
I guess we know now why it happened at the Game Awards.
I was going to say, the Game Awards were right. Like they absolutely got it right.
Once.
Okay.
No, they got it right a couple times. Got it right a couple times.
I did a list on the channel for like ranking all of them recently, and it's actually a really tricky one to pick apart when you get to the top end of that sort of stuff. But It Takes Two is I had such a huge amount of fun with it. It's not story-wise, the second half, it dropped off a bit for me, but the amount of fun I had with it was completely unparalleled to anything else that I played this year. It is just an absolute joy. And it's just so nice to see something kind of, I guess, akin to the way Hades was talked about so much last year. Like, it's just such a different game that's getting such huge recognition.
Yeah.
And, it's got a super entertaining director and writer and stuff like that as well, which is, it just adds to it because it's not necessarily ever going to be that Kojima sort of level, but we are seeing a bit more of that, and having personalities on that side. It's a very, very cool thing.
Which, by the way, who found the Easter egg in It Takes Two of Faris's moment at the Game Awards?
Yes.
Oh,
You get it in a radio signal. Yeah. That gave me a chuckle. Me and my brother, we were doing like there was the bit in the classroom with the maths bit, and we just, it was just so funny. We just had to put it down. It was very similar to A Way Out with the kayaking bit. Like we were just, because you got to communicate really well, and when one person's like can't breathe because they're laughing so hard, it gets a bit difficult to communicate. And yeah, It Takes Two it's just such a wonderful game, and it's just so full of heart. I would have changed the ending, and I think it would have been way higher for me if they went with a slightly different, maybe a bit more mature kind of ending, instead of going for a bit more of an obvious sort of way with that. But otherwise, it's just such a wholeheartedly lovely game. It's just so, you can feel the heart in that game the whole way through, and all of the mechanics are just beautifully executed. It's such a good platforming game. It's such a wonderful game. Such a wonderful game.
I'd love to hear from, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, someone was going there. Yeah, it took me a while to get into it, to play it, mainly for the fact that it was co-op only. So it was just having somebody that I could actually play it with that was, well, time zone friendly. But
Jeff,
no,
I'm
like
always
I got
awake.
to it. Always.
It's true. He's always awake.
But no, like I played through it with a friend of mine who was, good for getting it as well too. And it's super fun. I think mechanically that game is refreshing pretty much every 5-10 minutes. There's always something that is brought to the table that's very fun. The mechanics are well used. There's a lot of kind of clever multi-uses in a lot of things. And I mean, like, even in that snow village, like we spent 10 minutes like pushing the people up the little luge thing up, whatever, like trying to like get them to flip up and or like explode or something. But it was just
snowballs at
it was fun. Like,
and then they throw them back at you. Great.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good game. Like, I don't think the story really captivated me. The whole like fix your relationship, like that guy drove me nuts to the point where anytime he appeared, I was like, just end this scene, just go on. So like, and like,
I think if they actually
submitted my
sorry, I was going to say, if they actually hired like a proper comedian for that game to get some real like Pixar quality jokes in there, it could have easily been like one of my favorite games of all time.
Banderas. That's what they were going for. But what was funny is like I had tweeted out my review for that, and it got 1 like within, I don't know, about an hour, and the like was from the voice actor of that damn book. So like, and in my review, I'm like, yeah, this is great, but that guy's voice is annoying, and he liked my so. But no, it is a really fantastic game that shows that you can have really just fun game design built around like, a family orientated experience and be a great game. And I mean, if EA goes like, hold on, we got Game of the Year with a game that didn't have microtransactions or a battle pass.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And hopefully, like, EA Originals, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it is one of the best things that EA does not get enough credit for. Like, you can
they
absolutely
literally
hate
take
their
no
executives
profit,
at the
right,
top
from those games.
So the only thing that they take is the money that they invested into it. That's it. And then the IP and the profits stay with Hazelight or whoever else they work with. Because I mean, Unraveled and then like Faye or whatever that was called. Like, it's such a fantastic program to see games like that being built. And I think by a team that has been largely undefeated in hits. I mean, they've, Brothers, A Tale of Two Brothers or whatever it's called. And
Tale of Two Sons.
Like those games are great and they're all co-op experiences. So I'm expecting their next one to not be any different. I'm expecting another co-op experience from them. And
Yeah.
See how it goes, because the tech keeps getting better. Their way of conveying stories keeps getting better, and I mean that line between like AA studios and AAA studios is blurring. So I think we're in for something for the next one.
Yeah, I'm very excited for what they do next, and I wouldn't be surprised to see like a whole load of this style of game start coming out because people want to chase what's popular, and for this year, It Takes Two has just always been in the conversation, so it's fully deserving of being of winning that Game Awards, and it's fully deserving of being our first Game of the Year winner.
We didn't get to talk much about Inscription. I mean,
or Chicory.
Yes, or Chicory.
Or Halo.
Yeah, I was just that's what I was just gonna ask, because there were a few games here that people seem to really like, and maybe have gone a bit undiscovered this year. It seems like,
Absolutely.
So why don't we talk about a couple of those, Luke, before we finish?
Absolutely.
I also want to say really quick that I don't know if everyone else. it sounds like everyone else did, but I did not play It Takes Two.
Did not. No.
Okay.
I ordered it. It's coming. So
that game is
It takes 2 months for shipping.
That game is inaccessible to me because I have severe arachnophobia. So games with spiders in it, can't play them.
Sure.
Can't play
Oh
them.
wow,
So,
okay.
So so that was something that I mean, it's a case by case basis, but
Of
for It
course.
Takes Two, I was like, nope, big ass spiders, no thank you. So it's interesting, and it's interesting to me just because like I feel like when it first came out, people were like really singing its praises, and then it was just quiet for like 6 months, and then the Game Awards happened, and it won Game of the Year, and I was at the Game Awards, and I literally was just like, what? It was like the last game that I thought would win Game of the Year because no one was talking about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that it's a very creative game. Like, and I have local friends that played, and like, yeah, it was really, it was good. But, so it was definitely a surprise for me. But like, I'm glad that people like it, and things like that. I'm also just kind of surprised, like, some people. I mean, nah. I'm good. I'm good on what I'm good.
By the way, sorry, real quick, Cam. That shot of you getting a drink from Shuhei was pretty dope.
Oh yeah. That was such a bizarre thing. Like, yeah. Oh, did you want to hear the story? It's like I feel like people are just like, or tell the story now.
I feel like you
I was just like at a dinner with like some other people, and like Aaron Greenberg, who's like the head of marketing at Xbox, he was like the one who like kind of planned the whole thing. And I think like Shuhei thought that like we were part of the Halo team or something like that, because that's what like GameSpot reported, and we were all just like, should we tell them that they're wrong? Like it wasn't. Yeah, we were just like a bunch of industry people. And they just brought over a bottle of wine or champagne, I don't remember which, and it had like Shuhei in Japanese, and then his Twitter handle for some reason, and yeah, so it was just like, it was a cool little thing,
Well,
that's great.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, let's talk really quick about Inscription, because that's one that's only popped up on my radar recently, but I've heard nothing but love for it. So I know Andow and Philip had it on their list. Does anybody else play that?
Can I say one thing really quick?
It was on my list too.
Yeah.
No, Naman had something to say a minute ago, and I didn't want he got cut off. I want to make sure that he was able to say what he was going to say real quick.
I was just going to talk about Inscription basically, which is
okay, perfect.
Perfect. So I'm
no spoilers.
No spoilers. I'm in Act 3 at the moment. Things are weird for sure. Game is weird. It's not. I think it's one of those interesting things where I think because people have talked about it so much, of like it's very subversive and does kind of this different stuff. I guess my expectation going into knowing that maybe it hasn't hit me as much, but I don't know if like the ending is gonna kind of change things for me. So I'd love to know from you guys, like when with the point that you kind of turned on it, and what kind of made it your game of the year.
I feel like saying that would ruin the game.
Okay.
It's one of those games.
It's one of those.
It's one of those games where you just have to go in blind. The less you know, the better, and just kind of roll with it. Because like, I started it by myself, but then like I played it like for like 4 or 5 hours last night, and I had friends that knew about the game already watching me, and like kind of just watching what I was doing, and just like the kind of discovery that like that game has, because most of that game takes place in a cabin, and you're playing a card game with this dude. But then like, this isn't this I feel like this part isn't really much of a spoiler, but let's just like You know, there's a point where like you just think that you're sitting here playing a card game, and he's just like, go grab that thing, and like, oh, I can leave the table. And then I like leave the table, and then there's just like all this stuff to explore. And then you just find out that there's like all these like things that you just like, and it just kind of, without going into spoilers, it just grows and grows and grows from there. And then like once you beat them the first time, like proper, like you get to the end of the game, like, and you get to the final phase of that fight, something crazy happens there. And then once you finally beat that phase, like something that is just feels like you're being removed from the game itself happens, without going into spoilers. And it is just really, really unique. And you know, the reason why I didn't put it as my like number 1 or 2 is because I think that like a game like Chicory is a lot more of a personal, like it's like personal messaging about being human and things like that, or just being a person, not even like human specifically, but being a person. And then like Returnal is just like a game that like, it is a challenge, and that's like my favorite thing that I like in video games. I like to be challenged. I like being on the tip of my toes, and that serotonin that I get when I win. And then also just like the world and the environments, things like that. But anyway, and like, but Inscription is just so wholesomely unique, and just a game that I've never played before. You know, it's just something that I've never experienced in a video game before, in really, really cool ways that just keep growing. That's all I'll say, because I haven't beaten the game yet. I'm sure everyone else that wants to talk about it has. So they can talk about more on it.
It's really like that all the way through, though. I mean, you're talking about the beginning, like basically the very beginning of the game, and there's so many unique things about that just in that section. And as the game progresses, it just keeps going. There's more and more and more totally unique experiences. And the thing that was fascinating about it for me was that it started with the most mundane, like familiar thing, especially if you play a lot of indie games these days, is a card battle game. And it's like, you think if you're just looking at it from that perspective, it's the most simplistic, you know, run-of-the-mill indie experience. And then you could get up from that table and you have a whole nother thing going on, and then a whole nother experience, like tangential, but it ends up being like the primary focus of the game. And it's just, it was so like every moment of it was surprising. That was one of the reasons that I put it at number 1, is that it was a game I flew through, despite having a lot of, it's not a significantly long game, but it's a there's a lot to it. It's more than a day of playing.
There are layers you got to peel back for sure. I mean, that's the interesting thing I think about it, is that it has all that weird stuff, but I think at its core, the card game's actually really good and fun, and has a lot of strategy and depth to it as well. So.
That's another great thing. It's the core mechanics. It takes something that's like, it's not just a throwaway card game. There's a lot you can do. You can do strategies and figure out. You know, it doesn't matter that much in the long run. You can kind of just play. It's difficult until you just get it right. Basically, I've seen people talk about the difficulty of it, but I found that like familiarity with playing all those indie card games, I kind of got the hang of it really quick and built a deck that was really functional.
Dude, this game is nuts. Like it there's like because it gets to a point where like there are things in the cabin that like are implemented into the card game, and then the first time you like do, because you have like items that you can use, and like when you get like when you use this like item that you found in the cabin for the first time, you're just like, oh shit, but it actually like is an important part to like doing other things in the cabin later on. And like it's just, dude, it's so good. It's so good.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say as well. It's, I don't, without spoiling it, because that's the hardest part, is talking about this game is so hard, because there's so many things, especially the first time you experience them, that you just want people to take that and experience each one of those layers on its own, as its own experience. But this game grabbed me from moment one. I mean, I love tabletop RPGs. I love card games like Griftlanders, Slay the Spire, all that stuff. So this game had me right when I started it. And then it also had that weird kind of like, not quite Return of the Obra Dinn style graphics, but that kind of like almost retro style graphics. And so just the vibe, the theme, this kind of horror environment that they put you into, it's kind of creepy, just really builds that ambiance for the game. And yeah, all the surprises that are wrapped up in that, it just won me over hand over fist every moment I put into that game. I was just enamored. And the fact that like nothing really feels like it repeats itself, as far as like the dynamic stuff that happens within it. Obviously there's some stuff because you're playing a card game.
Like, the card game stuff is repetitive, but like,
yeah, but a lot of the things that happen within those games, within those battles, are so unique and never really repeat themselves. It's just really cool. It's one of the most unique games I've ever played. And it's like an amalgamation of all these different things that I absolutely love.
It also has
and there's like, I just also want to say, like, this isn't a big thing, a spoiler or anything like that. I think, at least, but like basically like how you win is like there's a scale, and like whenever you deal damage, the teeth fall onto the opponent's side of the scale, and once it hits the bottom, you win. But if you like do overkill, right, you'll this bowl of teeth will, like, golden teeth will go into this bowl, and like
doesn't make a lot of sense to someone who hasn't played the game, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but like it's
a
currency. It's a currency to be used later in the card game.
Right.
But the thing is like, there have been times where I'm just like, I think I'm gonna lose, right? Yeah. Or like the guy thinks he's gonna lose because he runs out of cards or something like that, and he'll give you like an olive branch thingy that you can take. It's like him surrendering. But the thing is, it's a trick. It's a trick because if you can win, you're taking away the opportunity of getting the teeth. Yeah. But you don't think about that at first. You're just like, oh yeah, you surrender. I surrender. I'll take the thing. But then like you think about it, you're like, wait, I could have won. Why not just get the teeth and have more money? It's just so smart. It like those type of things that game does.
That sounds awesome. I'm super excited to actually get.
I was just gonna say. So what it sounds like you guys are really saying is no one should listen to a conversation about this game until they've played the game.
That's what I was thinking.
I mean, I think that everything that we've said would be okay going in, but everything else that don't like nothing else. Don't look into anything.
Don't Google. And the scale thing is interesting too, because in a lot of card games, there's like a set amount of health that you're attacking. And then that's like the end of the round. The idea of the scale, this back and forth, because when they hit you and when you hit them, it puts more weight on either side of the scale, which can make you kind of nervous at certain points, which doesn't happen as much in other kind of games like this. So that scale balance is a really cool mechanic too.
And one other thing I would say also is that, like, not in a really significant way, but in a way that's worth mentioning, like there are things that you'll find in your playthrough that other people will not find. Like, because I had friends watching me play, and they were like, "What's this? I didn't see this like in my playthrough or anything like that. Like, I've never seen this before." And like, it's not something like significant that changes the story or anything like that, but it's just like kind of like that, those things that like, like basically like for me, I ended up beating him before doing certain things that other people already did, and I didn't know. And things like that. And so things can turn out differently. And it's just, there's so much variety in this game on top of like just the general game itself. It's really, really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
And
It's very reactive in that way.
Along with that, there's, I mean, if you're familiar with the developer, he does ARGs with his games, and there's a huge ARG going within and throughout this game and beyond it a good bit. It actually goes into, like, I don't want to ruin any of that, but it goes into a lot of stuff that's completely outside of the game.
Sure.
If I mean, you don't actually have to like tangibly do it, because I mean it's a lot to take on if you want to actually dig down into it. But
sounds like you have done some of it.
No, well, I started to, and then I was like, this is too damn much, and I gave up. Then I went online, and like there's a whole like a giant web page listing all of the steps of things that people have done, like that involve going places and finding things out in the world, and like all this. There's a lot of stuff in there, and it's amazing that like there's an amazing game that has this whole encompassing like world of unique mechanics, and then also an entire ARG that has a whole bunch of incredible things along with it too. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this game must have taken just for the. I think one guy made. I mean, he had people like contractors, I think, doing some of the other stuff. But there's like, it's just amazing that someone created all of this over, I'm not sure how long it took, but it must have taken a long time to put all that
Seems
together.
like it's this year's Outer Wilds, where it's like it's a game where you get a lot out of the exploration you discover on your own, as opposed to the stuff that you've been told through reviews or podcasts. Like, so many people are like, oh, if you're playing Outer Wilds, don't know anything, just go into it blind.
Yeah.
I try to keep my review simple and
yeah. I mean, like I said, I've only found out about it in the last month or so. That's when it's properly like come on my radar, and it just the second like he got up and away from the table when he's playing cards, I'm like, whoa, what is this? What's happening? Like, it completely piqued my interest from there. So I'm really looking forward to get into that.
I think the thing that really shows kind of how much word of mouth has helped this game is I have not really seen anything about it aside from, different podcasts talking about it and whatnot. And that's how I found out about it. The Next Lander podcast was talking about it, and I decided to check it out. And I'm super happy I did. It's only been out for 2 months, but it has like 35,000 Steam reviews or something like that, which is insane for a Steam game. Like Steam reviews, like there are AAA games on there that don't have that many reviews.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So just before we go, then
we have one more game to talk about.
Oh, do we? Sorry, which game are we talking?
Well, Cam,
are you good
to talk about Chicory?
Chicory.
Right?
Oh, sure.
I
you good for time?
very much want to talk about Chicory.
I'm good for time. I got.
Okay.
No one talked about Death's Door either, and and like
a lot of games we didn't dive into.
Yeah. I just
there's
feel
so
like
many games this year.
I just feel like just because like at least for Death's Door, there's a few of you made it. You're like, it's your game of the year,
Absolutely.
so I feel like that should be talked about.
I definitely would love to hear more from Keith for sure.
But I just want to talk about Chicory because I feel like that a lot of people haven't played Chicory. And
I've seen. Is that the one that looks like a coloring book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been super interested because of the art style.
Yeah, so it's on PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC now. It's through the Epic Game Store specifically, I believe, on PC. And this game, like, who here deals with imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah.
I'm here today.
I was talking about this yesterday.
Who feels like that they have to be good at everything?
Anyone?
Yeah. That's the messaging. That's the messaging that Chicory gives you, is that you don't need to be amazing at everything to be special. You don't need to be the best to be special. And it's like, first off, like, because this I just recently played this like last week, and so it's fresh in my mind. It's a game you can easily beat in 2 sittings. Like it's a pretty short game, but like the puzzles and the way that you like the puzzles to explore the world, I think, like I'm not trying to shit on Death's Door, but like a lot of people, like Death's Door was the game I played first based off of just amount of talk, right? People are like, oh, you gotta play Death's Door, it's game of the year, like things like that. And it just was like, okay, this is the art style is cool, the music is great, really great music, but like the combat and the actual exploration and the puzzles didn't really do much for me. I was like, this is fine, like, but Chicory like blew my expectations. And I think that like it does a lot so basically this, like the synopsis is like, in the world there's a wielder who has this paintbrush that paints the world and kind of keeps the peace, that type of stuff, keeps everything like colorful. And you are and the wielder in the current time is Chicory. That is her name, and she's a rabbit. And in the world, everyone is like different animals. And it's so clever because like in the beginning of the game it asks, what's your favorite food? And I'm like, oh, pasta's my favorite food, and my character's name is Pasta, and everyone in the world is named after a food. And it's like, I was like, okay, this is a clever way to like just kind of name your character. And like, and basically you are the janitor, you live in the tower that Chicory lives in, and you're like a big super fan of like everything she does, like, oh, her art's amazing. And you end up finding, like, just out of nowhere, the entire world turns into white. It's just white with black linings, and you're just like, what's going on? And you're trying to find Chicory, and then you just find her paintbrush and you end up taking it, and then like you just go on this journey of like painting the world and trying to figure out like what is causing the world to be like this. And there's all these like very interesting like special moments where like Chicory asks you to paint her and then she'll paint you, and like the game kind of purposefully makes it so that you can't paint well. And so like you try and make this painting of Chicory, and it's one of those things like, even though you're back, I don't know how they made it work, like how they just kind of send this message to you, but it's like, even though your painting is like not, you know, it's not good, like you still feel like this level of like specialness to it because you're the one that did it, you know. And you don't need to be like, it doesn't need to be like amazing to be amazing. And it because you know, because like Chicory shows hers and it's like beautiful, gorgeous, and then you basically have like this chicken scratch type painting, and then she's like, oh, I love it. Like, you know, it's like, it doesn't have to be like mine just to be special. And like, and it just like the way it sends those messages across like throughout the game is just so compelling. And it really is something that it's hard to explain. It's just something that you have to like experience. And I think it hits even harder for someone like me who's like, I'm not, I think it'll hit for everyone because we're all people that like create things, we create content. It's just, this is a variable to that. But also like, I'm not a good painter. Like I've always like appreciated painting, but like I've always wanted to be good at painting, but I'm not. And it's just like kind of getting that approval from someone that's like, even though it's not great, people still think it's special because it's yours, you made it, is like, it really hit home for me. I think it's a really special game, and I think that's why I rated it so high. And again, like I think it's just a really well designed game as well, and a really great journey. And again, like not a super long game. I think I beat it 8.5 hours, but I highly recommend it. It's really, really great.
Well, I can say that everything you just said mean that I'm gonna go and buy that game in like 5 minutes time.
Yeah, man.
So
I'm completely sold on that. That sounds incredible.
I'm in. So
that's why I'm loving this whole conversation. Is I'm taking bits and pieces from everyone. I've got Steam open right now with Inscription in my cart. I'm planning to buy Chicory on my Switch. Like I'm gonna go through and make sure that I cover all these bases because you guys have brought so much interesting topics to this table. I love it.
Jordan, how are you for time?
I'm good. I got like another 10 minutes max.
Okay. So let's talk about Death's Door then, because Death's Door, for me, it was head and shoulders above everything else in terms of how, like, what I enjoyed it. It's like a perfect mix of a lot of the things I love, from the kind of Souls-like architecture and boss kind of designs to the kind of Zelda-ness of the world, and like the level design, and the characters are just so wonderfully written as well. And there's like weird bits of humor in there where you don't expect it, and it's just also endearing. There's no voice acting at all. It's all just written, and it's just it just kind of blew me away how much I loved everything in that world. Like I've got little Etsy figures over here because there wasn't official ones. I just had to have something because I just was so fully enveloped in the Death's Door world, and I think it tells such an interesting story visually as well. Because if you go into like the headquarters, or I forget, I think it's the forest, I believe. I can't remember where. It's one of the later stages, sorry. And it's where death is really central, and where death is kind of the point of the area. It's really gray, it's very monotone and stuff like that. But you get to like the witch, and the whole purpose and point of that area is that it's evading death, it's alive, it's thriving, and it's just so colorful. And they tell such a wonderful story with that, away from like all the text-based stuff as well. I just adore that game so much. I think it's phenomenal. I could talk about it forever. I honestly could talk about it forever. I think
just to add on, because I also love that game. I think it was a great combination of the art being, really pretty, and they have one very striking boss arena, which is like black and white. So I'm not going to reveal what it is, but the style, the minimalistic, clean aesthetic of it, like, was so striking. with the black, like ink-like over the white, and they have lots of these little things, and they're very smart with music usage too.
Oh yeah,
how it's kind of sort of dynamic and it fits. Sometimes it goes goofy, other times goes a little dark, doesn't it? And it really fits. And then on top of that, the gameplay is quite responsive. It's quite tight.
Very, yeah.
It's not not a clumsy game at all.
No,
and
it's perfect.
you know you
Gameplay
can
is perfect.
yeah you can count on, you know, if you're deliberate about your movements and stuff, it's gonna feel rewarding. So pretty good.
I think that was one of the reasons why I liked it so much. Is you get games that have challenge, and sometimes it's the controls or how the mechanics work where that challenge is really born from. Death's Door is extremely hard in a lot of cases, but I always felt the controls and the mechanics and the combat were smart and responsive enough that I could overcome those challenges. Dying 10, 15 times on like that last
the
run
grandma or some shit.
until like
love the
like
grandma.
when you try and do that big run and like you're repeating the same steps and you're like, oh, I gotta move this way, I gotta move this way, I gotta do this, and like you still feel that even in that, like, you know, those like that fight, you'll die a lot, but you never feel like it's the game's fault. You feel like, okay, I moved here, I did this, you know. You feel the blame for it all, and it's just so satisfying to play.
The way I look at it is that I feel like somebody said, let's make a Zelda game, and actually did it and made it right. Like usually when you have somebody trying to like emulate a classic game on that level, it's sort of, they get a little wonky and they don't deliver in the right areas. But that one hit every single aspect of what you would expect from a classic Zelda game, just perfectly. Like I felt like the combat, the level design, the characters, everything about it was like on that level of quality and the design. And the just to like build off of that, it's kind of weird that like Devolver Digital has pulled together like two games on this list here that we've got. Like I was thinking about putting on Loop Hero as well. I mean, no one talked about that, but that was a game that it was earlier this year that I liked a lot. That was really unique and weird, and like it caught me off guard because I thought it was going to be really stupid just from the trailer. And then I played it, and then like 7 hours later, I was like, "Where am I? Is this even still happening?" And it's just crazy that like these are small developer games, or like single developer games that have been just pulled up from nowhere by Devolver, and they said, here, you know, here's something that you probably would never have played otherwise that's going to be amazing. And Death Store is definitely one of those.
Devolver, whoever is in charge of talent and creative acquisitions at Devolver needs a raise, because they're
on the money,
knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, they absolutely have. And I think like sorry, I'll come back to you in a second, Matt. I played and I adored Link's Awakening remake this year, and I think that just added to how much I love Death's Door, because it just like it feels like it nailed, like you said, India, that real Zelda feel. It's just such a well done game. They fully understood what they were doing, what they were aiming for, and they accomplished it on all fronts, I think. Sorry, what were you going to say, Matt?
Only that, you know, I think people will remember this as a year of a lot of delays, and what it's actually led to is a year of a lot of incredibly unique, interesting new IP getting the spotlight. You know, the games that we're all gushing about, they're not like Halo was at the top of a lot of people's lists. But we haven't spent our time talking about Halo. We spent our time talking about It Takes Two and Death's Door and Inscription, because they're doing something new. Halo is Halo, and it's great. But it isn't Inscription, which blows you away, or you know, Death's Door, and so it's been a really unique year for that, and something I'm very appreciative of.
For sure.
Next year is going to be tough for an indie game to stand out.
100%. Well,
I'm pretty sure we'll see a
more
couple
delays.
indie games
So
to stand out next year. There definitely will be.
Yeah, they will.
Keith,
They will.
you had Death's Door number one, right?
Yes, I did.
So for you, why was it your number one?
Well, so I'm a big fan of Souls-like games. They pretty much are the only kind of games I will sit there and play nonstop. A good example is, and so many people at my outlet try to stop me from playing it, is I have over 1,000 hours now in Dark Souls 3, just on the PC version. That's not counting the Xbox or the PlayStation. So I'm a big fan of those games. But I grew up playing the Zelda games. You know, I think I'm one of the oldest guys here on this show right now, and I remember playing the first Legend of Zelda. So when the PR company hit me up, was like, Keith, I know you're a big fan of Souls-like games. Try this game for me. And I played the preview, and I was like,
yeah,
oh my god, this nails everything. I won everything in this game. I want it. When's it coming out? When can I play more of it? Game came out, played it nonstop. Literally did not play anything other than that. It's just the fact that the world is so well done, the dynamics of the characters. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling some of this for some people. Like the first time I encountered the pothead character, I was like,
yes.
this guy?
Yes. I've got a little figure of Pothead. I adore him so much. He's fantastic.
And now we got a pothead in Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Great point.
It was just, it nailed everything. The combat was fantastic. There was a lot of hidden stuff within the world. I remember stumbling across a boss that you weren't supposed to fight yet, and literally sat there for 2 hours trying to beat this guy. I was like, all right, I'm not sure I'm going to beat him. I'm going to come back later. The lava guy, the fire, it's just so, everything about the game is amazing. The combat is amazing. The levels you go through, each of them have their own unique personality, their own unique charm. And even so much when you finish the game and you're like, well, hey, guess what, guys? The game's not over. You still got stuff to do. If you want the true ending, let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's for anybody who likes action adventure games, who's always wanted to dive into games like, I hate saying it, but Dark Souls, but always thought that they were a little bit too tough. And they're not tough. They're just challenging and memorizing things. But if you always want to play those games where we're scared to do so, Death's Door is like the perfect entry. It doesn't drop you in the middle and say, all right, good luck. It teaches you how to play the game. And the encounters with the bosses are challenging, but they're not impossible. They all have a recognizable pattern. And once you recognize the patterns, like, forget it. These guys are cakewalk. You can beat everyone.
Oh, yeah. No,
it's
absolutely.
Such a great game. Yeah, it's just, the first time I met the Urn Witch, I was like, what is this? Who is this lady? And why is she following me around this house? What's going on here? Yeah, it's such an amazing game.
I like
for PlayStation as well. Is it on the Switch now as well?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. I think it's fully out now.
Everybody needs to play this game.
100%. I distinctly remember like the frog like popping up every now and again, just like popping his head through bits.
When you fight the frog and you get this, his name is like this.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. Yeah. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And it's just so many little like fun, tiny details, like slashing the signposts in half and then reading them, and the text is all cut in half and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
there's so much love and care in this game. And I think like when you said it at the beginning, saying that the comparison, it's an old one and it is one that is overused a bit, but the comparison to Dark Souls is purposeful, and they've made the game with that intention. It is like a perfect amalgamation of a classic Zelda and a Dark Souls style game, and it just absolutely nailed it for me.
It's amazing how many games you see now when you go back and you talk to the developers and you ask them on the slide, so how much did you draw from Dark Souls? And they straight up and tell you, we love Dark Souls. We're trying to do this. Like, okay, we got you. All right, I understand 100% now.
I've got the art book coming whenever that comes, because
I didn't know they had an art book. I need that.
Yeah. Like, I think I saw it on Twitter. Like, I think it's on pre-order. I don't know if it still is, but I immediately
said I need that. The vinyl's also on pre-order.
I got a buddy that's collecting vinyls, and it's like, dude, do you even have a record player? And he's like, who cares?
This whole show is just an excuse for all of us to go buy a bunch of stuff when it's over, because we need to get it.
Like, where am I going to get a record player at now? All right.
I mean, they're just cool to have around. Like, records are just super
Put them
cool
on your
looking.
wall, hang them up.
Yeah, no, exactly. Was there any other games we wanted to talk about before we end up?
I think Halo is about the only other big.
And I also wanted to mention on Psychonauts 2, because I think I was the only one who who said anything on it.
I thought someone else had picked that up, but
yeah, I obviously had Psychonauts 2 at number 1, and the main reason for it is it gave me what Ratchet didn't give me, and that was a story and characters that I cared about, and it told the story in a way that very few games do. Like, it used level design to actually develop the characters.
Nice.
And not many games can do that, let alone well, and this game does it extraordinarily well. And given that it's on Game Pass, I think everybody should at least try it. So yeah, that's I'm excited to see what comes from Double Fine in the future because it's incredible.
And it's a sequel that came out a long time after the original, so you have a lot of hype and a lot of build up to like live up to. And yeah, they did a fantastic job. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's my number 7. I think.
That's one of the reasons I didn't play it is because I didn't play the original, and I wanted to play that first because I feel like it would be kind of a letdown if I didn't.
It also takes place so soon after the original as well, so you can kind of like go straight from one to the other and like barely any time is taking place.
You do have to play that Rhombus of Ruin VR game where
it's in the middle, yeah. I think it has. You think about sometimes like platformers and like different worlds. There's a snowy world and there's a fire world and all that stuff. Psychonauts 2 has some of the most just wildly crazy places that you go to because it just has no limitations, right? You're going into people's brains, and so you just have these incredible mashups of places I've never seen in games before that are just delights to look at. And I think
it is
a great too.
It's a fantastic game to play on a 3D TV. If you activate 3D mode, it looks insane when you play it that way. The depth is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. All games have that compatibility, but this one here just looks like you're just in that world so much more.
Didn't even think of that. Jordan, do you have time to talk about Halo?
I do.
Awesome. So let's talk about Halo. I haven't played too much. I think I played like 3 hours, but I got to a battle where like the frame rate just absolutely tanked, so I put it on pause.
Definitely got some issues on PC with the campaign. Like,
yeah.
I never had any issues on consoles.
No, the console version is much better than the PC version. I'm trying to.
It's just optimization more so.
Hardware.
Yeah. I beat the Halo Infinite campaign last week. I sort of burned through it as it was coming out, and I played a little bit of multiplayer beforehand. But I'm not actually a Halo fan. I played 1 and 2 recently and thought they were pretty good, but didn't personally get the hype. But Halo Infinite is personally my favorite Halo campaign. I found the open world format to be a great supplement to the mission structure that I feel is pretty repetitive in this game, but on the whole, the game has so much variety in it now that you have Zeta Halo to explore, that new structure, on top of the fact that from what I've played of Halo, this does so much more for the characters. Master Chief combined with Echo 216 and the weapon are such a great core cast to get connected to, and they're also wonderfully realized that I actually cared for once. Frankly, playing through Halo 1 and 2, I'm like, I don't really care about Master Chief. I like the Arbiter, but this giving him people to talk to consistently and have that sort of draw out different sides of his personalities made me so much more engaged with the world of Halo. And I can't give Halo Infinite enough praise for making me connect to a series that I classically was like, I don't really feel this, but I'm so excited to see where it goes next. Though there was an element of the ending, no spoilers, that kind of ticked me off. But that's neither here nor there.
What I'd like to say on Halo is the way I keep describing it to people is Infinite feels like what the kind of designers of the original Halo probably wanted it to be in their heads, but the tech wasn't quite there at the time to support it. And I think that 343 clearly look at that original game and have sort of gone, right, what are the strengths of it and how do we build on that and make it that but bigger, right, and more meaningful? Because if we really think about Halo, people think about the gameplay and their moment-to-moment experiences, whether that be by themselves or in co-op. Obviously, there's no co-op right now with Infinite. But having that open world space for gameplay and having that grapple shot, which makes more difference than you would ever expect it to. I just think they've done a superb job. And I do think, like Tucker says, the story is certainly the best 343 story, in my opinion, in Halo. And it made me care about Master Chief in a way that I never have before.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite make my top 5, as I said earlier. But
same here.
But it was close. It was very close.
Oh, me. Yeah. Oh,
Oh no, you crack on.
Like for me, it's like, yeah, like in Halo Combat Evolved, when you get out of that shuttle and you see that wide open area, like that was kind of the first we had of that for shooters. Like shooters were generally very corridor driven. So I think with Halo Infinite, it kind of builds on that promise of like wide open spaces, and it makes Zeta Halo feel like you're actually exploring a Halo ring for the first time. Like that exploration is there, whether it's in a vehicle that you unlock to get through, or like me, just using the grapple shop to go straight up a giant mountain and using that momentum to build you up. And it becomes this addiction for experimentation in a lot of a lot of the exploration. And I know people say like, oh, it's like the Breath of the Wild of whatever, but Halo always had wide open spaces with physics-driven gameplay of shooting a warthog in the air with grenades. I mean, some of the early bits of YouTube were built on that. So like it kind of has its own approach of like, I'm going to take this encounter how I want, and they just took that volume knob and just cranked it to 11 and gave you more options. So if you see a high value target grunt and you're like, I can sit on the top of a rock and snipe him, or I can get on a chopper and I can just like mesh him into like mulch in like one pass. It gives you that freedom, and it's so good. And like the story's fantastic. Like, you know, I'm one of the 9 people that love Halo 5 because like I love Cortana. She's my favorite character in all of anything. And 5 and Infinite, like there's a lot of course correction, sure, with 5, but the story that 5 and Infinite tell, it harkens back to all of the classic good Halo stuff, and it gives Chief like a lot to work off. It gives him a lot to think about. You know, he's a mission-driven soldier. So what happens when you like, you know, like in Halo 5, it's like what happens when you kind of essentially fail a mission to a certain degree, like, and it's so fantastic. Like it's certainly not going to give everybody every narrative closure that they want on certain things. Like it's not a massively story-driven game in how some, like, you know, best narrative, you know, awards and stuff take it, but it's such a fantastic game for Halo, for its story, for going back to like its roots, like from gameplay. The multiplayer is fantastic. I mean, like it's some of the best multiplayer I've played in years. Like when you got a full team going in big team battle and everybody's just on voice chat, it's unbelievably fun. And there's certainly some hurdles for it. I mean, like, you know, the fact that there's no campaign co-op, you know, the fact that there's no forge, the fact that the multiplayer feels like drip fed into a certain extent to prolong that length. But everything that's there is fantastic, and like I have had an absolute blast with everything.
Awesome. So Matt, it was your game of the year as well. What is it that puts it there for you?
Yeah, I just think I've never been a massive Halo person, to be honest with you. Other than being obsessed with Halo 3 multiplayer for like a 6-month period, like never been hugely into it, never gave a crap about the story at all.
Sure.
And I just think if I could go back to my sort of younger self playing Halo 3 and go, this is going to be free to play one day and it's going to be better than ever, and you're going to care about the campaign. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like I say, I've just rolled credits on it. I'm sure there's some recency bias as well going on. But like I say, I actually cared. I actually enjoyed a story. I like gave a crap what Master Chief was saying, and the conflict even amongst the characters who are supposed to be on the same team. And then the enemies also having way more depth to them, the bosses that you fight and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I think Jeff said it right. It's just having so much fun in this game. And like it doing Far Cry better than Far Cry this year. Yeah, it blew me away. I'm absolutely chuffed with it, and I can't wait to jump straight back in, even though I've just rolled credits, right? So, yeah, blew me away.
Nice. I mean, they're going to keep adding to it, both story and like multiplayer stuff. So I'm really interested to see what they do with it. It's going to be their destiny, sort of thing. I am looking forward to getting back to it as well, because I was enjoying my time with it. Like I completely left vehicles by the side so I could just piss about with the hook, the hook shot thing, because it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I did something similar. It's just like, you know, you can just, when you get to the fobs, you can just bring in a vehicle. I was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to use the hook. But here's the thing as well, is like the reason why this isn't higher on my list is because I do have some issues with the I had some issues with the campaign in the sense of like,
Mm-hmm.
even though that this does feel in a sense new because like we haven't seen Halo do this before, it did still feel like when I play the game, it does feel still like a checklist open world game where it's just I killed this priority target. All right, what's the next thing closest to me?
It's new for
all right,
Halo,
go
but it's
there.
not new for games, right? Like that's the key
exactly.
thing.
I do like that it's all optional though.
Yeah, of course it is optional. But like I mean, it's an open world game. They want you to do open world, like like I don't know if. Okay, I don't want to open a can of worms here, but like I'm not a big fan of Breath of the Wild. But what I'm saying is like for people that do like Breath of the Wild, did y'all just go straight to like try and like do the beasts and then go to Ganon? No, you explored the world. You know what I mean? Like,
good point.
But yeah, and I think that another thing that really irks me when I play the game with the grapple hook is that I wish I could just do it to anything. Like kind of like how you can kind of climb anything in Breath of the Wild. I'm like, this should work. This should work. And it's like, nope, doesn't work. I'm like,
it's not super clear what it doesn't work on either. Because in that beginning mission, I was like shooting it and I couldn't figure out why it just wasn't.
Yeah, it doesn't do a good job at telling me like, okay, why did that not like sometimes I'm like, okay, it didn't reach far enough. Okay, I get that. But like, which also I feel like the reach is like this
just a little bit too small.
Short.
This is Halo Infinite, not Halo Reach.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like this too. This too short. Where I'm just like, I know I'm right there. But yeah, those are like the two things that like I still again like it was number 5 on my list. I love Halo. You can see the Master Chief helmet right there. I love Halo. But like it just those two things just like really irked me that like I had to put it where it's currently at. But I love it. I love it.
I really hope that you can upgrade how quickly you can use the hook as well, because I just want to sling around. I want to like Spider-Man.
Oh, there is an upgrade for that. I'm pretty sure where it shortens the cooldown. Yeah.
Awesome.
See, I went like probably a good, I don't know, third of the way through, realizing that when you grapple to them, if you hold down the melee, it'll go to a third person and he'll basically just electrically like punch the enemy.
Oh, cool.
Never did that.
And I did.
Good to know.
Like, I didn't know that for the longest time because it kept doing these like assassination kills, and I'm like, these feel really random. I don't know how I'm doing it. And then all of a sudden I held in the stick as you're zipping to them, and it cuts to third person, and Master Chief's hand just starts glowing blue, and he just punches the enemy, and it does way more damage.
That is very cool. That is very cool. So like I said, I was having a lot of fun with it. I think it is just the performance on PC was the biggest issue for me. So I got a good, like I said, a couple of hours into it, and then like the performance just absolutely tanked. And
that's exactly why I haven't even started. I played the first level, and I was like, the PC performance is abysmal. I can't. They need to fix this.
Yeah.
It's not a knock. It's not a knock at anybody playing on the console version, but I'm more of a PC gamer than I am a console gamer. Play them all. I'm not saying don't play them, but my goal was, hey, I'm going with this ultra widescreen monitor. I've got this RTX 3090 here. I've got balls to ball memory. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Give me the experience that you promised. And I get here, and it's like, there's a problem here. Please address it.
Yeah. And like half of it for me is because I only played Halo 1 on PC for the first time recently to do my video for it. And I don't want to play Halo on console because it just mouse and keyboard feels perfect for what Halo is. And I just
it's a very controversial opinion, but
it is.
I respect it.
Yeah.
Like I know like there are professional like Halo players that normally play mouse and keyboard, but when it comes to Halo, they play controller because
for sure. Yeah. And I think
I get it.
Yeah, I think like Keith, I think it is just because I am more geared to PC gaming now. The more I go, the more I just am going towards PC gaming. But the performance, I don't want to push through it. I'm just going to sit back and wait. Hopefully they can fix it, and then I can enjoy and have the experience that you guys have had with it, because it sounds awesome. It sounds like they've done everything I want, because I want more of a story. That was my biggest issue with the other Halo games, was that the story and the characters weren't really fleshed out all that much. And I'm such a big story guy that without that in these games, there's not a huge amount to keep me tied to them.
Yeah.
But if they're doing that, I want to see that, and that's what I was hoping for. And to hear that they're doing it, but not be able to get there because the performance isn't great, it is eating at me a bit. So I really, really enjoyed my time with it. But
definitely a little better on the multiplayer front, because I played a bunch of multiplayer, and that is great. Like I would probably put that on a list just on its own, right? Like I think the multiplayer.
Apart from when we had that guy just disappear.
The funniest gaming moment of the
Oh, I
year
saw
when we
that.
started a game and one of our teammates just before the match started, it zooms out and shows all 4 players. He just like explodes and his guns fall on the ground, just like evaporated into nothing.
There definitely are some weird bugs, but the great thing is that 343 is listening. They're very active about updating the game. They're obviously working on a lot of stuff, but even the PC performance problems, there's no way that goes for a month without having a fix. Like 343 is on it. So I had a problem in a multiplayer match. Was one of the big team battle seeds. You have to get the power cells, and the power cells were inside a rock. No team could get to them. So our game went into like triple overtime, and eventually it was just like, no one wins. I don't know what to do. But I talked to someone on Twitter at 343, and they're like, okay, we know this is a problem now. We'll work on it. Thanks for letting us know. But I'm very happy that they are paying attention to that level.
Awesome. They didn't really fix that progression very much, though.
True.
It still sucks. They're like, here's the smallest possible fix. We're going to give you like a 10 more XP per match. It's going to be great. You're going to fly through that battle pass.
They got a hold you over somehow.
I think the battle pass, like for me, it's like I'm not seeing the same issue, but I think it's just mainly because I'm seeing it from a different perspective. But like you take a look at like what this battle pass is going to what, March, or is it May?
6 months, I think they said.
Just like see so many people wanting to like push through it so quickly, and yet we've got this huge wait until the next one comes out. And I think the battle pass for me, the only thing that I see bad about it is I wish there was more stuff you unlocked per level as opposed to the speed of which you're reaching the levels. Because like I don't mind like spending like 3 or 4 matches or 5 or 6 matches or 10 or 15 matches before I get to the next level. It's just I would like those levels to have just more things to unlock, more so than the progression of me pushing through them.
I think mostly it's just because gamers in general, are so used to battle pass progression being a certain rate, right? That when a game does it differently like this, and this is very different in the sense that it feels like it's a game where the progression is more designed around, let's play 1 or 2 hours a day. Like we want every player to just play 1 or 2 hours a day, but we want you to be playing for the next 150 days, rather than play 5 or 6 hours a day, but play for a quarter of that time. Do you know what I mean? As you would do with a Call of Duty or something like that. So I think it's just about holding players for longer, even if they're not necessarily playing the game as much on a day-to-day basis.
My problem was more that it's not based on your skill, like or your performance.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to do these weird, like you have to do pistol kills or something, and that's not really conducive to playing well. Or using, I mean, you might not even use a pistol very much at all. And if you like are number 1 in the game and win and do all these things perfectly, you're not progressing any better than someone who was AFK the whole time.
100%.
Yeah. I remember the first day I was like, I went 19-7. I was like, yeah, killed it. Got top of my team. End of the match, same amount of XP. No reward at all for doing well, you know.
That is bonkers. That is absolutely bonkers. Because there's so much emphasis on like playing the objective. We hear that so much. It's like it's rewarding people that just want to like piss about, and it's fine. Like have other kinds of game modes for that, I guess. But you also want to have that balance of having the game modes for the people that want to play competitively and want to be like, they want to be pros at this. They want to just play Halo, but it feels like it is just really geared towards being super casual at it and being like Jordan said, something you're only going to play for a couple of hours a time sort of thing, rather than being like your soul wanting to sink all your time into it sort of thing, which is a shame. But hopefully that is something that is going to be fixed with more game modes being added and stuff like that. Because like you said, there's a lot still missing from it.
It'll evolve over time for sure.
Absolutely will.
Combat evolved.
absolutely will. Do we have any other things that we want to talk about before we wrap up? No.
So I just want to give a shout out to Des, and Tucker will know this. There's an incredible reveal in the Forgotten City with a name, and I won't say any more than that, but that's maybe my moment of the year.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah,
Same.
incredible.
Forgotten City
incredible
just
stuff.
absolutely blew me away at points. Like, it's such a clever game. I really hope they get to do something after that. And there's a really good short no clip documentary about the game.
Really good, yeah.
It's awesome. It's excellent game. It's an excellent watch.
I actually want to say, speaking of moments, just because we didn't talk about Returnal at all, even though it was high on the list.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
The moment you just you'll know what I'm talking about. The moment you jump down, I was just like, it's still going. It's still going. And then you're just underwater. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Returnal is so like, I was so, because like, you know, you play through Returnal and it's like, there's things underwater. Why can't I get to this yet? And then you get, and then that's just like, that's how they introduce you to the underwater stuff. It's just like
guttural fear of what's next.
Yeah.
See,
I'm not good enough. I haven't got past the second biome. I got to the end. I'm on the end boss of that, and I just so close. Get so close, and I just can't.
I think that's one
of that desert one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the desert. That's what's kind of cool about Returnal, I feel like, is that like, at least coming in my opinion, is that like everyone will like tell you, oh, it took me this long to beat it, and it'll be like pretty varied. Like I remember when you know, Blessy mentioned on Kind of Funny that it took him like 30 hours to beat it, and then I beat it in 13. Like you know, so it's just like, wow, I didn't expect I expected it to be a lot longer. So when it ended, I was like, wait, that's it? It's over? You know? So and I also like put it as my game of the year because it's the only game I played this year that I've just consistently thought about going back to and playing it again, which and that speaks a lot for me as someone who just like always wants to play something else to like the endless backlog, you know. So yeah, Returnal, it's good stuff.
I know that's something Sean said a couple of times on our show. That is one he keeps thinking about going back to, and it's the one that like stands out above everything else. Is the highest mark of quality. And like the thing about like different people beating it at a different rate, it's very, very similar. And you know, it would be because it's a similar style of game to Hades last year. Like I can't remember who on Kind of Funny said it, but there was someone that was like, oh, they'd beat it in like a couple of hours, but then like it took me like 10 hours to actually first beat Hades, sort of thing. Like
your first run.
It's such a mad thing. But no, Returnal was a phenomenal game. I wish I was better at it, but it's such a fantastic game. Awesome.
I enjoyed what I played of it.
Yeah, there's talk of like DLC or something coming as well. There may be something added to that, but I think that will about do us for today. Thank you everyone so much for joining me. It has been so good getting to talk to you, some of you for the first time. Hopefully I know we've all got a Discord that we have together that we can all chat on and stuff like that.
Please join the Discord if you're not in it, because you know you're all cool people, and I'd like to network with you guys and get you on the Game for All show. So
yeah, big time. We do all sorts of topics on there. I'm going to have everybody's links in the description, so please do go and check out all these wonderful people and what they are doing in their spaces. And one last time before we go, our game of the year is It Takes Two. Wonderful game.
Fuck the Oscars.
Once again, thank you all for joining me. Thank you to everybody who's watching this. Thank you for Jordan for helping me out with this. Thank you to Jeff for all the incredible graphics that you will see at the front of this show. And thank you to everybody that has joined in watching this. Let us know in the comments below what your game of the year is. Was it Takes Two as well? It's a great game. If you like this, do give it a like. Do share it around with friends. And we will see you again very, very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah.